Chapter 1302. The Limitless Devil Hall was a major sect that had some fame in the central region. Although it wasn't an extremely terrifying Dao inheritance, ordinary people wouldn't dare to offend them. Find. We must find this traitor. The mountains trembled as killing intent filled the air. Countless figures shuttled through the air, and a solemn atmosphere permeated the air, causing people to feel extremely nervous. Hold it right there. Chi. Over 10 figures instantly blocked Yi Xian's path. The middle-aged man in the lead had a ferocious look on his face as he gloomily surveyed Yi Xian and his companion. His cultivation base was at the creation realm. This is the territory of the Limitless Devil Hall. Why are the two of you here? The middle-aged man asked in a gloomy voice. I wonder what happened to the Limitless Devil Hall. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. He didn't answer the question as he looked at the middle-aged man. A traitor escaped from the Limitless Devil Hall. We are under orders to search for this person. If the two of you are here to pay a visit to my Limitless Devil Hall, you can come again in the future. The middle-aged man frowned. Two strangers suddenly appeared in the territory of the Limitless Devil Hall. This naturally caused the middle-aged man to feel vigilant. In addition, he also discovered that although the two of them didn't reveal any aura, they gave him a formless pressure. This also proved that the cultivation of the two of them was higher than him. Traitor! Yi Xian muttered to himself. For some reason, Luo Ho's face flashed in his mind. This feeling was extremely intense, causing him to look at the middle-aged man again. I wonder who betrayed your sect? The two of us have some relationship with your sect. Maybe we can lend you a hand. Staring at Yi Xian's amiable countenance, the middle-aged man heaved a sigh of relief. He was truly afraid that Yi Xian was an enemy of the Limitless Devil Hall. But now, it seemed that Yi Xian was an ally and not an enemy. This traitor is called Luo Ho. He stole our limitless demonic book and fled. However, the area within a radius of 100 million miles has been completely sealed off. It is impossible for him to escape. The middle-aged man gave a simple explanation of what happened. After that, he curiously glanced at Yi Xian and Li Wuyo as he asked, I wonder why the two of you came to my Sinluo Devil Hall? If you are truly friends of my Sinluo Devil Hall, I can bring the two of you to my Sinluo Devil Hall. This way, the two of you can avoid unnecessary misunderstandings and conflicts with the members of my sect. Unfortunately, Yi Xian did not respond to the middle-aged man's question. Instead, he frowned slightly and muttered in surprise. Luo Ho has betrayed us? Yi Xian clearly remembered that back then when he separated from Luo Ho had once told him that he was a devil's son of the Limitless Devil Hall. Logically speaking, as a devil's son, Luo Ho could be considered an extremely important character in the Limitless Devil Hall. And given Luo Ho's shrewdness, he definitely wouldn't betray the Limitless Devil Hall for no reason. After all, the consequences of betraying a major sect was something that Luo Ho couldn't bear. Most probably, things weren't as simple as they seemed. The two of you know Luo Ho? The middle-aged man was shocked. He instantly pulled apart the distance between him and Yi Xian. Behind him, over 10 members of the Limitless Devil Hall also looked at Yi Xian and Li Wuyo with hostility. Naturally, I know him. He is an old friend of mine. Yi Xian nodded lightly as a strange smile appeared on his face. Take the two of them down. The middle-aged man's expression changed. He waved his hand and ordered everyone to take action. Buzz. In the next moment, without waiting for the members of the Limitless Devil Hall to take action, a cruel smile appeared on Yi Xian's face. He didn't seem to have done anything, but his eyes merely flickered. One after another, the chains of Nirvana appeared in the void in all directions and instantly shot towards the members of the Limitless Devil Hall. Ah, no. Chi. The chains of Nirvana were too terrifying. Every chain pierced through their heads. Large amounts of blood splattered on the ground as headless corpses exploded in the wind. Not a single one was left alive. The way these people died was extremely cruel. A large amount of blood essence drifted out and was all devoured by Yi Xian using the Calamity Transcender technique. No matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. Although Yi Xian didn't care about the cultivation of these people, it was still better than nothing. After all, The shameful act of wasting was something that Yi Xian despised very much. Blood mist drifted down from the sky, as more than 10 lives were turned into nothingness. When this scene appeared in front of Lu Yaoxing's eyes, he frowned slightly, but didn't say anything. You are from the heaven-devouring Devil Hall? In the next moment, the middle-aged man screamed in horror. He retreated continuously, and then soared into the sky, wanting to escape from this terrifying place. Did I allow you to leave? Yi Xian said in a cold voice. His 5 fingers suddenly stretched out, as if he wanted to grab a star. The middle-aged man was instantly pulled over by him. A mere creation realm cultivator was not worth mentioning to the current Yi Xian. He suppressed him effortlessly. Tell me, in which direction did Luo Ho escape? Yi Xian's 5 fingers grabbed the middle-aged man's throat. His expression was malicious and ruthless. I don't know. I really don't know. The middle-aged man replied in a panic. His face was extremely pale because he really didn't know where Luo Ho escaped to. Otherwise, they wouldn't have searched everywhere. Since you can't answer my question, isn't it unnecessary for you to live? Give me your cultivation base. Roar. Yi Xian said sinisterly. The Calamity Transcender technique was activated again. The terrifying black mist shrouded the middle-aged man. Along with the sound of flesh and bones melting, the middle-aged man wailed miserably. All of his blood, soul, and essence chi was devoured by Yi Xian. Bang! Yi Xian casually threw the middle-aged man, who had turned into a hole of white bones on the ground, and curled his lips in disgust. The other party was just an ordinary creation realm cultivator. His cultivation base was impure, so it wouldn't increase his strength much. Yi Xian, aren't you a little too vicious? After all, this is the territory of the Yama Demon Hall. Although the Yama Demon Hall isn't a terrifying sect, the Hall Master of the Yama Demon Hall is also in existence in the Immortal realm. What you did? Lu Yaoxing frowned slightly and stopped talking. Obviously, Yi Xian's methods were too cruel. He killed people as soon as he attacked, and even devoured their cultivation base. Those who died in his hands couldn't even leave behind their primordial spirit. This method was a little too extreme. A worthy younger brother, Yaoxing, you don't understand. If I don't kill people, they will kill me. Today my cultivation base is higher than theirs, so they are lambs waiting to be slaughtered. But if their cultivation base is higher than mine, I can only let them slaughter me. Yi Xian said indifferently. He then patted Lu Yaoxing's shoulder and said, although your cultivation base is high and you have been groomed by the temporal shrine for many years, and you even have an immortal realm master, you are still inexperienced. You don't understand the cruelty of the primal chaos world. Slowly you will understand. Remember, being merciful to your enemies is being cruel to yourself. If you want to go far in the competition between the strongest, you must not have any so-called justice or mercy. Killing one is a crime. Killing 10,000 is a hero. Killing 9 million is a hero. The winner is king, and the loser is a bandit. The winner is king. Justice will always be written by the winner. Even if you have committed heinous crimes, you will still be one of the strongest in history. Everything you have done will be seen as a legend by the world. Look at the heaven-devouring demon lord. He is the best example. Yi Xian lightly said as he walked forward with large strides. His words caused Lu Yaoxing to be stunned, and his mind was also violently fluctuating at this moment. All along, Lu Yaoxing had been concentrating on cultivation. No one had ever told him these words. Even his master only urged him to cultivate. But today, Yi Xian's words seemed to have opened a door for Lu Yaoxing, and it caused a great impact on his mind. This guy really has a lot of fallacies. Lu Yaoxing smiled bitterly, and then strode forward to catch up with Yi Xian. Chapter 1303. Blood. Blood. It was a bleak and magnificent blood. Along the way, Yi Xian had turned all those who chased after Luo Ho into bones. No one could survive. It could be said that corpses were everywhere. Yi Xian was a very simple person. Luo Ho was his friend, and had many interactions with him. Since the Limitless Demon Hall wanted to kill Luo Ho, they were Yi Xian's enemy. Yi Xian had never shown any mercy to his enemies. His only method was to kill them all. Moreover, killing people was as simple as eating and drinking for Yi Xian. It didn't matter if he was vicious or bloodthirsty. Anyone who met him would never survive. Of course, Yi Xian didn't like killing people. Killing people was just one of his methods. He was more looking for Luo Ho's traces, and using the Calamity Transcender technique to devour the cultivation of these people. Cultivate. Become strong to the point where he didn't fear any great enemy. This was what Yi Xian had always been doing. When Yi Xian was weak, he could choose to endure. But when he had the ability to crush everything, he wouldn't talk so much nonsense and would directly kill. After all, the so-called trouble came from people. When people died, the trouble would disappear. Along the way, Lu Yaoxing could be said to have seen Yi Xian's fierce side. No one who met him could survive. What did it mean to die without a complete corpse? What did it mean to have both body and soul destroyed? Along the way, Yi Xian gave Lu Yaoxing a full explanation. Looking at the dozens of skeletons under Yi Xian's feet, Lu Yaoxing frowned and said, "When can you find him if you search aimlessly like this?" "Who said that I'm searching aimlessly?" Yi Xian smiled and said, "The limitless demon hall sent so many people to chase after Luo Ho, and these people are rushing north. Obviously, Luo Ho's traces have been exposed. I think I'll be able to find him soon." On the other side, in the boundless forest, the vegetation was lush. A figure covered in blood was frantically fleeing in the forest. A pair of bloody eyes bloomed with a ruthless look. "Damn it! Thankfully, I've cultivated the power of karma. Otherwise, I would have definitely died at their hands." Luo Ho's mouth was overflowing with blood. He was frantically fleeing in the mountain forest. He didn't dare to use an escape technique, nor did he dare to fly, because if he revealed even the slightest trace, he would be heavily surrounded in the next moment. After more than 1,000,000 years, Luo Ho had already cultivated to the second stage of the creation realm. Furthermore, the power of karma made him invincible in the same realm. Unfortunately, he had betrayed the limitless demon hall and was chased by an extreme realm elder. He had almost died in the other party's hands. If it wasn't for the karma force saving his life at the critical moment, he would have been turned into ashes by that extreme realm elder. "Audacious traitor, this old man said that you can't leave." Rumble. The forest was annihilated, and the mountains shook. An extremely terrifying shockwave swept through the vast mountain range. All the vegetation was turned into ashes. An extremely terrifying figure suddenly attacked the fleeing Luo Ho, blocking his path in the next moment. Chi, chi, chi. Sealing the heaven and earth, demonic light filled the sky. Hundreds of figures rushed over and directly surrounded the mountain range, setting up an inescapable net. No matter how powerful Luo Ho was, there was no way he could escape from this place. "Luo Ho, you've disappointed the hall master." The Tongtian moved the earth, shaking the surroundings. This extreme realm elder had black hair and a black beard. His robes were fluttering in the wind. At this moment, he was staring coldly at Luo Ho. "I didn't want to betray you, but the limitless demon hall wanted to hand me over to the 10,000 spirit sky palace. Since you've done this, then don't blame me for betraying you." Luo Ho screamed miserably. His eyes were filled with despair. The karma force was indeed the strongest force, but it wasn't invincible. Perhaps it could make Luo Ho unrivaled in the same realm, but facing an extreme realm elder, Luo Ho knew that he wouldn't even have the chance to resist. Once one enters the Yin-Yang realm, looking back at the vast expanse, the Yin-Yang realm was a dividing line. Those who stepped into the Yin-Yang realm had entered a whole new world of cultivation. The so-called manifestation realm couldn't even withstand a single blow. Even if Luo Ho had the karma force, it was useless. Of course, nothing was absolute in this world. If Luo Ho had Yi Xian's manifestation realm cultivation, then the extreme realm elder might be able to put up a fight. Unfortunately, Luo Ho wasn't Yi Xian. Facing an extreme realm elder, he could only wait for death. There was no way for him to escape. "Luo Ho, since you've joined my Sunluo Devil Hall, you're now a member of my Sunluo Devil Hall. Your life and death will be in the hands of my Sunluo Devil Hall." The extreme elder coldly berated. "My life is in my own hands. If you want to hand me over to the 10,000 spirit sky palace, then let's see if you have the ability to do so." Rumble. Luo Ho had reached his limit. The boundless mortal world technique was operating at a terrifying speed. Strands of red lines were growing, and the terrifying karma force was being released by him. I knew there was something wrong with you. Today I'll kill you. The Extreme Realm Elder roared coldly. Although he was slightly afraid of the karma force, the difference in realm made him fearless of Luoho. He could suppress him with a single blow. Rumble. The Extreme Realm Elder suddenly attacked. The chaotic light exploded, distorting the laws of heaven and earth. The terrifying suppression force rushed towards Luoho. My life is over. Luoho roared unwillingly. He couldn't block this attack. He was only at the second level of the creation realm. How could he be a match for the Extreme Realm Elder? This is really troublesome. Suddenly, a rustling sound was heard. This sound appeared extremely abruptly, but in the next moment, a strange thing happened. Luoho disappeared from where he was, as if he had disappeared into thin air. There was no sign at all. Rumble. The Extreme Realm Elder's attack missed. This made his expression change. He looked towards the source of the sound, and saw that Luoho had already appeared behind a person, who was grinning at him. Yi Xian. When he saw the person in front of him, Luoho's desperate face glowed again. He unconsciously called out Yi Xian's name. Luoho, how did you get yourself into such a mess? Fortunately, I arrived in time. Otherwise, you would have died at the hands of this old man. Yi Xian laughed and joked with Luoho. Yi Xian. Hearing Luoho's name, and seeing Yi Xian appear, the Extreme Realm Elder's expression suddenly changed. Then he became very happy. I've searched high and low for you, only to find you by chance. The 10,000 Spirit Palace has been looking for you everywhere. I didn't expect you to appear in front of me. Today, I'll suppress you and send you to the 10,000 Spirit Palace. In the next moment, before the Extreme Realm Elder could finish his words, an extremely terrifying scene appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The Extreme Realm Elder's body floated in the air. A hand grabbed his throat. He was lifted into the air like a chicken by Yi Xian. His Extreme Realm cultivation was completely sealed. He didn't even have time to react. No one saw when Yi Xian made his move. Everyone only felt that Yi Xian's body shook. And then the scene appeared in front of them. How is this possible? In the next moment, Luoho exclaimed in horror. He couldn't believe his eyes. He had been chased by the old man, and had almost died at the hands of the Extreme Realm Elder. The scene at this moment was like a dream to him. You're just an ordinary Extreme Realm cultivator. How dare you be so noisy in front of me? Crack! Yi Xian's fingers tightened, causing the old man's neck to emit a bone-cracking sound. This person's 4 limbs were randomly kicking around. His originally complacent face was already extremely purple, and his eyes revealed an indescribable fear. You're really a piece of trash. Yi Xian shook his head in disgust. In the next moment he said with a cold and cruel face, if you're such a piece of trash, then you should die. Crack! Yi Xian's 5 fingers exploded with a terrifying force, as he forcefully snapped the head of the old man at the realm. The headless corpse that was spurting blood was even thrown to the ground by Yi Xian. Bang! Yi Xian stepped out and directly crushed the headless corpse. A large amount of blood qi drifted out. The Calamity Transcender technique turned into rolling black fog, and swallowed all the blood qi in the elder's body. Silence! Silence! A deathly silence. In just a few seconds, the Extreme Realm Elder, who was full of energy just now, died without a complete corpse. He didn't even have the power to fight back. When this strange and terrifying scene appeared in front of the people of the Sunluo demonic palace, the world was dead silent. Only the sound of teeth chattering and cold breaths could be heard. This is really boring. Such low-end cultivation is really hard to swallow. The rolling black fog dissipated from Yi Xian's body. He curled his lips in disdain, looking disgusted and disappointed. This Extreme Realm Elder's cultivation was too impure. Even if Yi Xian swallowed it, he couldn't refine much of it for him to absorb. However, it was better than nothing. Chapter 1304. Everything was silent, and the world was silent. An indescribable panic spread, and gazes of horror looked at Yi Xian. An ear-piercing scream came from someone, and hundreds of disciples of the limitless demon hall fled like birds. Since you're here, there's no need to leave. Roar. Devouring the heavens and devouring the earth, destroying all things. Yi Xian's Calamity Transcender technique was activated at a terrifying speed. The black fog covered the sky, and hundreds of people from the limitless demon hall exploded into a bloody mist, all of them swallowed by Yi Xian. After more than 1,000,000 years of painstaking cultivation, not only had the heaven-burying art improved, but Yi Xian's various supreme techniques had also made unimaginable progress. In the past, the Calamity Transcender technique could only devour people after killing them, but now, after more than 1,000,000 years of tempering, it could turn opponents weaker than itself into bones, and then devour their cultivation to its heart's content. It had to be said that the Calamity Transcender technique that Yi Xian had mastered had undergone a fundamental change. If it was just a devouring technique in the past, it had now evolved into a killing technique. Whoosh! A mouthful of turbid air was spat out from Yi Xian's mouth. His face sank slightly, and then he shook his head helplessly. Yi Xian really didn't care about the cultivation of these people. It was impure and of low quality. Even if he could extract the purest spiritual energy from it, it would still be a drop in the bucket when it came to the growth of his cultivation. Moreover, Yi Xian was not an ordinary person. The spiritual energy he needed to cultivate was as vast as the sea. Not only did the heaven-burying art require a huge amount of spiritual energy, but so did several other supreme techniques. This was also the reason why the space-time master had warned Yi Xian that his cultivation was impure and not pure. Therefore, if Yi Xian wanted to stabilize his foundation, all the techniques he cultivated had to advance together. And the consequence was that he needed an unimaginable amount of spiritual energy. Whether it was pills or natural treasures, all of them could help Yi Xian grow tremendously. However, these things consumed a great deal of resources. Even if Yi Xian were to crazily plunder them, he could not stop the rate at which they were being consumed. Therefore, the Calamity Immortal technique made up for this gap. After all, there were so many creatures in the chaotic world that they could replace elixirs and natural treasures for Yi Xian to cultivate. This also greatly improved his cultivation speed. However, everything had a cause and effect. Although the Calamity Immortal technique made up for this weakness of Yi Xian's, everyone practiced different cultivation methods, and the strength contained within was also different. As Yi Xian devoured the cultivation of living beings, he still needed to refine and purify the most basic source of spiritual energy. He also needed to control his killing intent. Otherwise, he would definitely be lost in the Tribulation Transcender technique. If this continued, he would eventually turn into a machine that only knew how to kill. Of course, Yi Xian's mind was firm. He had experienced the so-called Qigong deviation countless times, and would never let himself be lost in killing and devouring. However, Yi Xian did not dare to be careless. After all, devouring too much would have a great impact on his state of mind. He also had to control himself and slightly suppress the killing intent in his heart. However, the benefits were also obvious. The Calamity Immortal technique could devour the cultivation of living beings. Yi Xian's combat strength would also be terrifying to the extreme. At this moment, Yi Xian was at the profound stage of the Yin realm. He had an extremely strong feeling that he could even fight against the existence of the Yang life realm. Of course, the so-called Yang life realm did not refer to the Lord of the Heavenly Clan, but to those with a powerful combat body. For example, if the Lord of the Heavenly Clan was still alive, facing Yi Xian at this moment, Yi Xian would be able to kill him easily. It would not be as difficult as it was in the past. Yi Xian, your cultivation? Luoho walked over quickly and looked at Yi Xian in shock. He did not expect that Yi Xian would have undergone such a drastic change after more than 1,000,000 years. Luoho's mood was extremely complicated. I had an opportunity. Otherwise, I would not have been able to enter the Yin-Yang realm. But why did you betray the Sun Luo Demon Hall? Aren't you the demon son cultivated by the Sun Luo Demon Hall? Yi Xian asked. Alas, Luoho sighed heavily and hesitated. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he could not speak for a long time. This also made Yi Xian frown slightly. He knew that things were not so simple. You and I have known each other for many years. If you have something to say, just say it, Yi Xian said in a deep voice. Finally, Luo Ho fell silent and then sighed helplessly. Yuan Ling is in trouble. What? When Luo Ho finished speaking, Yi Xian was shocked. His mind was in turmoil. He even pressed Luo Ho's shoulder and said, What did you just say? You have news of Yuan Ling? What happened to him? Yi Xian, listen to me slowly. Luo Ho sighed heavily and slowly told him the whole story. It turned out that after Luo Ho and Yi Xian parted ways, Luo Ho returned to the Sun Luo Demon Hall. In the first few 100,000 years, Luo Ho focused on cultivating in the Sun Luo Demon Hall. Nothing happened. He also quickly broke through the Saint King realm and stepped into the creation realm. And Luo Ho knew that one's closed-door cultivation was not a long-term solution. So he walked out of the Sun Luo Demon Hall. He wanted to travel in the Central Territory and cultivate at the same time, gradually moving towards the Yin-Yang realm. 200,000 years ago, when he was traveling, he found traces of the Origin Spirit, and the Origin Spirit was being chased by the Undying Heavenly Palace. If not for his help, the Origin Spirit would have definitely been captured and brought back to the Undying Heavenly Palace. In the past, the two of them were originally one of the 3,000 demon gods of the Immortal Heaven Palace. When they returned to the chaotic world, they were separated in the starry sky. Luo Ho hid his identity and joined the Sun Luo Demon Hall, while the others disappeared. Back then, a total of 7 people came to the chaotic world together. Yi Xian, Lu Bai, Luo Ho, Yuan Ling, Landia, Fatso Huang and Gu Beichen. Needless to say, Lu Bai and Yi Xian, Luo Ho had already seen them. Only the remaining few were not known to be alive or dead, and there was no news about them. When Luo Ho saved Yuan Ling, he knew what happened after they were separated. According to Yuan Ling, Landia died in the Space Bug Clan, and he was lucky enough to escape and enter the chaotic world. It was unknown if Yuan Ling was unlucky, but he did not dare to return to the Immortal Heaven Palace after entering the chaotic world. He could only find a small sect to cultivate. However, there were many expeditions in the chaotic world, and the small sect that Yuan Ling was in was destroyed, so he could only escape. The saddest thing was that Yuan Ling's aptitude was not high. He was considered a figure in the untainted world, but in the chaotic world, he was only a small saint, and could not even step into the great saint realm. Moreover, the Immortal Heaven Palace had been investigating the matter of the 3,000 demon gods. He leaked his whereabouts, and the people of the Immortal Heaven Palace knew about it. This made him hide from place to place after returning to the chaotic world. However, after a long period of time, the Origin Spirit had barely passed through the Great Sage Tribulation and became a great sage. Just like that, a long period of time had passed, and he had been inquiring about Yi Xian. Chapter 1305. 200,000 years ago, he was finally found by the Undying Heaven Palace. Fortunately, Luo Ho arrived in time and saved him. He even brought him back to the Yama Demon Hall to wait for Yi Xian's arrival. However, something still happened. Back then, Yi Xian joined forces with Luo Ho to kill the Heavenly Grip Court Lord. This matter could be said to be done in secret. However, the Myriad Spirit Heavenly Palace was one of the strongest orthodoxies in the world. The Myriad Spirit Heavenly Palace's lord was in charge of the 10th Yuan Hui. It could be said that there were many capable people in the Myriad Spirit Heavenly Palace. Back then, when Luo Ho killed the Heavenly Grip Court Lord, he left behind a trace of his aura. The Myriad Spirit Heavenly Palace relied on this trace of Luo Ho's aura to find the Yama Demon Hall. However, this wasn't the end. The people who were tracking Yuan Ling's tracks also arrived. It was Tsang Hui Mia of the Undying Heaven Palace. The two forces forced the Yama Demon Hall to hand over the two people. Fortunately, the Yama Demon Hall Lord was a major sect, and the Yama Demon Hall Lord was in existence in the immortal realm. The two forces didn't dare to be too presumptuous and retreated from the Yama Demon Hall's territory. However, the two orthodoxies were two of the strongest orthodoxies. Even the Yama Demon Hall Lord, who was in the immortal realm, was extremely wary of them. Luo Ho and Yuan Ling were naturally interrogated by the Yama Demon Hall Lord. However, the two of them unanimously refused to admit that they were acquainted with Yi Xian. This had been delayed until now. Half a year ago, the Myriad Spirit Lord issued a decree. The Yama Demon Hall Lord finally made a choice and decided to hand the two over to the Undying Heaven Palace and the Myriad Spirit Heavenly Palace. Luo Ho was a scheming person. He immediately sensed that something was wrong and wanted to bring Yuan Ling away from the Yama Demon Hall. Unfortunately, the Yama Demon Hall was already prepared. In the end, Luo Ho relied on the power of karma to escape. However, Yuan Ling was only a great sage. He was directly captured by the Yama Demon Hall and handed over to the Undying Heaven Palace. And under the pressure of the 10,000 Spirit Heavenly Palace, the Yama Demon Hall wantonly searched for Luo Ho, resulting in the earlier scene. Furthermore, the Undying Heaven Lord has passed down a decree. He probably already knows of your origins. He also knows that you possess his weapon, the heaven-destroying halberd, and the undying immortal scripture. He even used Yuan Ling as bait to lure you to the Undying Heaven Palace. Luo Ho trembled as he spoke. Undying Heaven Lord? Yi Xian muttered, his expression extremely solemn. He had expected to face this legendary figure, but he had not expected to encounter this problem so quickly. Yi Xian, Yuan Ling wanted me to tell you that his greatest pride in his life was nurturing you, a supreme expert who could compete with the supreme experts of all time in the future. His death is not to be regretted. He wants you to never take half a step into the Undying Heavenly Palace. Yuan Ling? Yi Xian's eyes were absent-minded as he fell silent. Scenes of memories related to him and Yuan Ling flashed across his mind. No one knew what Yi Xian was thinking right now. Yuan Ling, a person who changed Yi Xian's life. That year, when he was young and at the end of his life, it was Yuan Ling who brought him onto the path of cultivation and Tao. That year, in the Blood Sea battlefield, it was Yuan Ling who imparted the undying immortal scripture to him. That year, the master and disciple fought from the mortal world to the earth immortal world. That year, the master and disciple turned weapons of war into gifts of jade and silk, truly dissolving the grudges between the master and disciple. If one were to ask who was the most important person in Yi Xian's life, it would be Yuan Ling who deserved to be called number one. Without Yuan Ling, there would be no Yi Xian. No matter what Yuan Ling's intentions were, in the end, it was Yuan Ling who nurtured Yi Xian. That year in the Heartbreak Mountain, when the youth was suffering from a terminal illness and closed his eyes to await death, it was Yuan Ling who appeared in front of him and started a new life for him. Yuan Ling was his first teacher, his guide during his youth, and even through half of his life. He had to save him. He had to save him. A person's life had to face many choices, but even though he knew that the road ahead was difficult and that he shouldn't set foot on it, Yi Xian still had to go, not because of kindness, not because of the relationship between master and disciple, but because he had a clear conscience. Yi Xian was a proud person. Along the way, he had experienced bloody trials and tribulations. Too many people had taught him all kinds of methods, but the only person he truly regarded as his master was Yuan Ling. That year, he gave me a new life. After all, he is my master. I can't watch him die. Yi Xian gradually calmed down. His voice was sonorous and powerful, and contained a resolute and decisive determination. Yi Xian, are you crazy? Luo Ho roared in shock. He didn't expect that Yi Xian would really go and save Yuan Ling. This was simply an action with no chance of survival. Some people can be let go, but some can't. Yuan Ling is someone I can't let go of. Since the Undying Heaven Lord wants to meet me, why should I, Yi Xian, hide? Yi Xian coldly spoke. As he spoke until here, he paused for a moment. After that, he glanced at this mountain range and coldly spoke. Sect leader, there's no need to hide anymore. My people have already appeared. The Shinra Devil Hall can set your heart at ease. MHM. When the sound of Yi Xian's voice faded, Luo Ho's expression drastically changed, as though he thought of something. As for Yi Xian, he was stunned. He didn't know who Yi Xian was talking to. Little friend is extremely intelligent. You are truly a rare genius. All of a sudden, a low voice rang out as a figure walked out from the void. This person's aura was untraceable, and his entire body was shrouded in devil light. He had a calm look on his face as he stared at Yi Xian. Sunluo sect leader? Luo Ho and Lu Yaoxing roared in shock. They didn't expect that the Sunluo sect leader was actually hiding in front of them. This simply caused them to be extremely shocked. An Immortal Realm expert. If you want to capture this friend of mine, you only need a single thought to do so. Why is there a need to send out so many disciples to search for him? Sect leader, you merely wanted to lure me out. Now that you have accomplished your goal, you should be at ease, right? Yi Xian calmly stared at the Sunluo sect leader. As the sound of Yi Xian's voice faded, Luo Ho was startled awake. Only now did he realize how foolish he was. He actually overlooked such a huge loophole. Just like what Yi Xian said, if the Sunluo sect leader acted, he basically wouldn't have a chance to escape from the Sunluo Devil Hall. Yet, he actually managed to escape, and was even being pursued by his sect members. This itself was an extremely suspicious point. So it turned out that everything was within the Sunluo sect leader's control. He wanted to lure Yi Xian out, and give an explanation to the other two supreme Tao elements. Little friend, please forgive me. My Sunluo Devil Hall is merely a Tao element. Since the supreme Tao elements want to force us, we naturally have to give them an explanation. If we truly angered the other supreme Tao elements, our Sunluo Devil Hall would be annihilated. The Sunluo sect leader sighed. Given sect leader's cultivation, you should be able to suppress me in an instant. I'm very curious why you didn't act, and instead allowed me to kill your sect members. Yi Xian spoke in a light voice. You have the potential to become a supreme expert. I only wish to leave behind some good karma. If you truly have the opportunity to ascend to the peak in the future, you can also spare my Sunluo Devil Hall from this calamity. The Sunluo sect leader had a complicated look in his eyes as he spoke until here. He then sighed softly. There will always be some heaven-shaking demon-level geniuses born in every Yuanhui. My Sunluo Devil Hall knows that we don't have any supreme seeds to contend with, and naturally wouldn't want to offend anyone. Hence, we can only use this method to force little friend to show yourself. 7 days later, I will personally pay a visit to the Undying Heaven Hall. I hope sect leader can help me convey this message. However, I hope sect leader can tell them that when I arrive at the Undying Heaven Hall, Yuan Ling is still alive. Yi Xian calmly spoke. Many thanks for little friend's help. The Sunluo sect leader spoke. Chapter 1306. Limitless Devil Palace. The moon hung high in the sky and the stars dotted the sky. Yi Xian sat under a pine tree. As he looked up at the stars in the sky, he allowed the moonlight to fall on his body, making him look spotless, and without the slightest bit of smoke or fire. A breeze blew by, causing Yi Xian's hair to flutter. He was very calm at this moment, as if he was enjoying a rare moment of peace. Undying Heaven Lord. Yi Xian's eyes were focused as he mumbled under the moonlight. Wang. The heaven-punishing halberd came out from his forehead, and the ancient bronze scripture floated beside him. Yi Xian looked at the two items quietly with a trace of hesitation in his eyes. The heaven-punishing halberd was the weapon of the Undying Heaven Lord, and the ancient bronze scripture was also his. It could be said that Yi Xian was already inextricably linked to the Undying Heaven Lord when he was in the human world. He had to go to the Undying Heaven Palace because Yuan Ling was there. Yi Xian couldn't leave him in the lurch because Yuan Ling was his teacher. If he didn't do anything, he wouldn't be able to get past himself. However, Yi Xian was very clear about one thing. If he really went to the Undying Heaven Palace, these two treasures might be taken away by the Undying Heaven Lord, because the heaven-punishing halberd and the ancient bronze scripture originally belonged to the Undying Heaven Lord. The Undying Heaven Lord was ranked 4th among the 12 strongest existences. He was second only to the 3 strongest existences, and was an extremely terrifying character. Every strongest had a title: Primal Chaos, Destiny, Spacetime. From these titles, one could see the power each possessed. Undying. These two simple words were as heavy as the heavens, faintly pressuring Yi Xian to the point where he couldn't breathe. The meaning behind these two words wasn't that simple. To be called Undying meant that the Undying Heaven Lord was extremely powerful. He wasn't someone Yi Xian could face right now. Although the Spacetime Master had told him that the strongest existences of all time wouldn't act against the strongest seeds. The undying heaven palace had existed since time immemorial. There was no need for the undying heaven lord to act. Any almighty character could take his life. You can't go. Suddenly, a voice sounded in Yi Xian's mind. It was Gai Tianyuan, who hadn't appeared for a long time. Ever since Yi Xian entered the space-time temple, Gai Tianyuan had vanished without a trace. He knew that his existence would be discovered in the face of the strongest existences of all time. Until now, he had finally awakened and advised Yi Xian. Why can't I go? Yi Xian said in a low voice. Because you will die, Gai Tianyuan said solemnly. The Immortal Heaven Palace is ranked 4th among the top 10 most powerful orthodoxies. However, you don't know that the Immortal Heaven Palace is known for killing. If you really go there, you won't be able to walk out alive. Gai Tianyuan warned, but I have to save someone. I know that the road ahead is dangerous, but I can only step on it. Yi Xian frowned. But you will definitely die, Gai Tianyuan said solemnly. Die? Yi Xian's lips curled into a smile. However, his smile was bleak and contained a hint of inexplicable meaning. Don't worry, I won't die. I still have one last trick up my sleeve. Yi Xian muttered. The Undying Heaven Palace was located at the top of the dome. The ancient and black palace had existed since time immemorial. Terrifying rays of killing light pierced through the sky, and the sound of sutras could be heard coming from the ancient palace. Dong dong dong. An ancient black bell swung above the dome, emitting the sound of the morning bell and evening drum. Black ripples spread out in all directions as figures with terrifying auras walked towards the Undying Heaven Palace from all directions. Today, the Undying Heavenly Palace was very quiet. Many great figures of the present age walked out one after another. This was because the Undying Heaven Lord's Dharma body was about to descend upon the Undying Heavenly Palace. To the Undying Heavenly Palace, this was an unprecedented event. Ever since the end of the 4th Eon, the Undying Heaven Lord had been roaming the primal chaos. No one knew where he was. Today, the arrival of the Undying Heaven Lord's avatar could be said to have shaken the entire Undying Heaven Palace. And the source of all this came from one person, a person who was no more than an ant in the eyes of the Undying Heaven Palace. And this person's name was Yi Xian. Under the dome, Yi Xian, Luo Ho, Lu Yaoxing, and the Sunluo sect leader were currently standing under the dome, looking up at the ancient palace that had existed since time immemorial. Little friend Yi, I'll send you here. If you can come back alive, my Sunluo demon palace will definitely return this favor. The Sunluo sect leader sighed softly, and his figure drifted into the distance. Rumble! The Heaven Lord invites you. A majestic voice resounded in the vast world. A black light bridge spread out, waiting for Yi Xian to step on it. It would bring Yi Xian into the Undying Heaven Palace. The two of you can go. I alone am enough. Yi Xian said calmly. Yi Xian, take it. Lu Yaoxing frowned slightly. A jade token appeared in his hand, and he passed it to Yi Xian. The words spacetime were carved on the jade token. This jade pendant was given to me by my master before I left. If the people from the Immortal Heaven Palace attack you, you can take out this jade pendant. It will definitely make them fear you, Lu Yaoxing said in a deep voice. Many thanks. Yi Xian did not reject Lu Yaoxing's good intentions. He kept the jade token in his hand, and then stepped onto the black light path, heading towards the ancient palace on the dome. Yi Xian, I'll go with you. Luo Ho strode forward, but before he could reach Yi Xian's side, Yi Xian had already used the space-time law to hold him in place. The more people there are, the more danger there is. I alone am enough to deal with the Undying Heaven Palace, Yi Xian said with a smile. He turned into a ray of light and headed towards the Undying Heaven Palace. Looking at Yi Xian's departing figure, Luo Ho clenched his fists, speechless. He did not know if Yi Xian could come out alive. Perhaps they would never meet again in this life. This made his heart ache. Dong dong dong. The sound of bells reverberated in the Undying Heaven Palace. Terrifying figures lined up on both sides of the palace. Yi Xian could not see through the aura of any one of them. This meant that these people were all terrifying people who had surpassed the yin-yang realm. Ta ta ta. Yi Xian strolled forward, walking through these people step by step. His footsteps echoed in the ancient palace, but there was no change in his expression. When Yi Xian came to the center of the palace, a figure sat high above. This person had a heroic appearance and was dressed in black. He was sizing up Yi Xian curiously. The Undying Heaven Palace Master, Ming Tian, was also the current leader of the Undying Heaven Palace. His cultivation base had reached the immortal realm. It was said that when he was young, he once competed with the Lord of all Spirits. In the end, he was defeated by the Lord of all Spirits and lost the qualification to compete for the title of Strongest of all Spirits. I'm already here. Where is the person I want? Yi Xian stood in the center of the palace. He looked at Ming Tian, the Undying Heaven Palace Master, and asked in a calm and low voice. Bring him here. Ming Tian waved his hand gently. A series of footsteps came from outside the palace. Yuan Ling was brought in covered in blood. Chapter 1307. Disciple. When Yuan Ling saw Yi Xian's appearance, he cried out in alarm. His soul seemed to have frozen at this moment, and a trace of despair flashed across his eyes. After a long period of time, the current original spirit had clearly aged a lot. His hair was completely gray, and his figure was stooped. Where was the majestic and extraordinary appearance of the past? Why did you come? Yuan Ling roared angrily. His eyes were withered because he was very clear about Yi Xian's current situation. This was simply an act of suicide. Yuan Ling had no intention of leaving alive after being captured and brought back to the Undying Heaven Palace. He knew what would happen to him. He only hoped that Yi Xian could live well and become the strongest in the world in the future. This was also his lifelong wish. He was also extremely proud of being able to nurture a disciple like Yi Xian. Disciple greets master. Yi Xian bowed to Yuan Ling. Then, he strode over to Yuan Ling and untied the chains that bound him. Then he turned to the Undying Heaven Palace Master and said, I don't want to talk nonsense. I'm already here. Can you let him go now? Yuan Ling was originally one of the 3,000 demon gods of my palace. According to the mistakes he has made, his body and soul should be destroyed. However, the Heavenly Master has said that as long as you are willing to come to my Undying Heaven Palace, he will be forgiven for his sins. He can leave now. The Undying Heaven Palace Master said in a deep voice. Many thanks. Yi Xian struck out with the power of time and space, not giving Yuan Ling any chance to resist. He directly sent him out of the Undying Heaven Palace. This also caused Yuan Ling to roar angrily. The Heavenly Master wants to see you. You can go in yourself. The Undying Heaven Palace Master waved his hand and opened a door of light. Yi Xian did not hesitate at all. He strode into the door of light. When he disappeared, the door of light also closed. This was a bamboo forest. A cool breeze blew past, causing the bamboo leaves to rustle. There was a lake in the depths of the bamboo forest, and a figure stood beside the lake. This person was dressed in black, and he had a handsome face. There was no aura around him, and he stood there quietly like a mortal. I've been waiting for you for a very, very long time. Fortunately, I've been waiting for you. The black-clothed youth slowly turned around. His eyes were like the universe, and the light of nirvanic extermination flashed through his eyes from time to time. His gaze towards Yi Xian was filled with a wisp of deep meaning. At this moment, Yi Xian quietly looked at the black-clothed youth in front of him. A feeling of astonishment suddenly rose in his heart. This man! For some reason, Yi Xian's entire body stiffened on the spot, because the black-clothed man in front of him gave him an extremely familiar feeling, as if he had seen him somewhere before. However, Yi Xian was extremely clear that he had never seen this man before. This feeling that was born out of nowhere was something that Yi Xian could not believe. There are always two similar flowers in the world. I can see my past in you. That's because you and I are the same kind of people. The black-clothed youth whispered. You are the Undying Heaven Master? Yi Xian probed. You can address me as the Undying Heaven Master. However, if you're willing, you can also address me as Revered Master. The Undying Heaven Master smiled. Revered Master? Yi Xian was stumped. He could not understand what the Undying Heaven Master meant by that. You've cultivated the Undying Immortal Sutra, and you've even obtained my heaven-punishing halberd. Furthermore, the Void-Shattering Heaven Sutra is in your hands as well. Even though I haven't taught you any cultivation methods, you have my legacy within you. It's not too much for you to address me as revered master. The Undying Heaven Master said softly. At this moment, Yi Xian was speechless. Before he came to the Undying Heaven Palace, he had thought of many scenarios. He had also prepared for the worst. However, the current situation was something that he had not expected. Actually, I've seen you before in the Fourth Era. Moreover, we've also had some interactions. We even verified each other's knowledge. However, our ideals were different, and we parted on bad terms in the end. However, it doesn't matter. It's only today that I know of your existence. Furthermore, I've also found out about your past through Yuan Ling's memories. The Undying Heaven Master said faintly. It was as if everything was within his control. You know about my past. Yi Xian frowned slightly. I'm an omnipotent expert. I know everything. Even though Yuan Ling didn't say anything, I've searched through his memories. I also know about your past. Actually, your experience is very similar to mine. Both of us rose from humble circumstances. I'm also very surprised that you could reach this step today. Actually, I don't want to kill you because you have many secrets. I'm sure Spacetime must have told you about them. However, this fellow always likes to act mysterious. Even though he controls the power of Spacetime and knows many secrets, in my opinion, he's still not comparable to me. The Undying Heaven Master said faintly. It was as if he was talking about something very casual. Even the Spacetime Master was not worth mentioning in his mouth. Among the 12 omnipotent experts of the Primal Chaos universe, the Spacetime Master is ranked third. However, you're only ranked fourth. Can I say that you're very arrogant? Yi Xian said solemnly. Ha ha ha. The Undying Heaven Master laughed. His laughter was very casual. A ray of nirvanic light streaked past him. With a wave of his sleeve, the laws in the sky were swept up. The lake below him instantly turned into a universe. Although primal chaos, destiny, and spacetime are powerful, they can only control 3 great rivers. In terms of cultivation base, other than primal chaos, the so-called destiny and spacetime are no match for me. Naturally, I didn't summon you here to show off my strength. I only want to accept you as my disciple. In the 11th Eon, I'll allow you to transform into an omnipotent expert. In the future, you can transcend the samsara of primal chaos together with me, truly becoming undying and indestructible. The Undying Heaven Master smiled. Are you so confident that I'll accept you as my master? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Confident? The Undying Heaven Master slowly walked towards Yi Xian. Numerous constellations lit up behind him. When he arrived before Yi Xian, he spoke. Among the 10 omnipotent experts, other than primal chaos, I'm the strongest. Whether it's spacetime or destiny, they are nothing but bubbles before my nirvanic might. Could it be that I'm not qualified to be your master? What if I don't agree? Yi Xian's voice turned cold. Die. The Undying Heaven Master merely spat out a single word, displaying his tyranny and arrogance. He basically wouldn't allow anyone to have the heart to go against him. Yi Xian, if I kill you, even the Spacetime Master won't be able to stop me. Although the Primal Chaos Law might restrict me, I don't care about it. I value you as a person, and I value your potential even more. As long as you accept me as your master, the Undying Heaven Hall will be under your control. Even the next Eon will be yours. The Undying Heaven Master spoke. I've said it before. You and I are the same type of people. You are an intelligent person. Between life and death, you should know what to choose. The Undying Heaven Master spoke in a heavy voice. Do you think you can defeat me for sure? Yi Xian calmly asked. Can you resist? The Undying Heaven Master smiled. His smile was very gentle, but his eyes were filled with the intent of death and nirvanic extermination. His tyrannical attitude was simply irresistible. Chapter 1308. Yi Xian's eyes flashed coldly in the face of the Undying Heaven Lord's overbearing attitude. However, he didn't say anything. Yi Xian understood the principle very well. At this moment, he was a fish on the chopping block. He couldn't resist the Undying Heaven Lord at all. However, There was a saying that even a rabbit would bite when cornered, let alone Yi Xian. However, before falling out with the Undying Heaven Lord, he still needed to find out the Undying Heaven Lord's intentions. You said that I have potential. What potential do I have that you value? Yi Xian's eyes deepened. The Undying Heaven Lord pondered for a moment, as if he was considering something. Then he said in a deep voice, although the Heavenfall halberd is my weapon, it has never acknowledged me as its master. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been stolen by that brat Pangu. Moreover, the scripture in your hand is called the Void Breaker Scripture. It comes from the same source as the 12 Heavenfall cauldrons. And you have great fortune. You actually managed to gather 4 Heavenfall cauldrons and fuse them into the Void Breaker Scripture. The Heavenfall halberd even acknowledged you as its master. It's as if someone in the unseen world had arranged this. The Undying Heaven Lord's eyes flickered. Yi Xian laughed when he heard the Undying Heaven Lord's words. He laughed contemptuously and said, I don't think you want to take me as your disciple. You want to use me as bait to lure out a mysterious existence, right? I told you that you're very smart. I didn't misjudge you. The Undying Heaven Lord nodded approvingly. He admitted it openly and said, I consider myself invincible throughout the ages. Even space-time and destiny are no match for me. Perhaps only the primal chaos can compete with me. Even you in the 4th epoch could only fight me to a draw at most. As for me, I've already reached the apex of the eons, and there's no path forward for me to take. If there really is someone in this chaos verse who surpasses the eons, and who controls the chaos cycle of reincarnation, I'd love to meet that person. And I see that hope in you. The Undying Heaven Lord was extremely arrogant and domineering. However, he truly had the confidence to be arrogant, and had the qualifications to be domineering. Even Yi Xian was unable to refute him in the slightest. I won't talk nonsense with you like I did with space-time. Either you take me as your master, and become the strongest of all time in the next Yuan Hui, or you die here today. This Lord will also take back the heaven-destroying halberd, and the heaven-shattering scripture from your hands. In the next moment, the Undying Heaven Lord spoke, not allowing Yi Xian to disobey. He calmly stared at Yi Xian, waiting for Yi Xian to make a choice. Do you really think you've got me? Yi Xian sneered. A trace of madness flashed in his eyes. Even if the one standing in front of him was the Undying Heaven Lord, he was already determined to fight to the death. Hee. The Undying Heaven Lord smiled. Maybe you have a trump card and think that you can escape from me. However, you are too naive. Even space-time won't be able to save you. Rumble. Undying Heaven's Might, Nirvana Divine Art. The Undying Heaven Lord's body bloomed with the strongest light of all time. The space around him collapsed without a trace, turning into a cosmic existence. The terrifying Nirvana Divine Art shook the starry sky, and the endless rotating stars turned into dust. Undying, you are too arrogant. Rumble. The cosmic universe was filled with stars. The power of time rippled. A boundless figure walked out from the end of the universe, and appeared in front of Yi Xian in an instant. Space-time. When the Space-time Lord appeared, the Undying Heaven Lord's expression changed abruptly. However, he regained his composure in the next moment, and squinted his Nirvana eyes. Undying, he is under my protection. You have stepped on the line. The power of time flowed, and the space-time divine tree swayed. The space-time Lord's expression was cold, and there was a trace of anger in his eyes when he looked at the Undying Heaven Lord. The strongest of all time was still a human. Everyone had their face. The Undying Heaven Lord was too arrogant and domineering. He did not even put the Space-Time Lord in his eyes. This had truly enraged the Space-Time Lord. Space-Time, I'd advise you to mind your own business. Other utmost powerful beings might be somewhat fearful of you. However, in the eyes of me, the Undying God, you're merely someone who can control the river of time. You might not be a match for me. The Undying Heaven Lord replied coldly. Oh, the Space-Time Lord said. Since you are so confident, let me see what you have up your sleeves today. Chi, 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 chi. Time flowed, and the space-time became chaotic. The Space-Time Lord's move changed the flow of time in this chaotic universe. An unimaginable might was released. Just you, the Undying Heaven Lord sneered. Although he had never fought with the Space-Time Lord before, the two of them had met several times. He had long wanted to test out the Space-Time Lord's strength. Rumble! The Nirvana divine light covered the sky and the earth. The supreme power shook the universe. The true intent of Nirvana was to turn everything into nothingness. No matter what kind of power it was, it could not exist in Nirvana. This was also the reason why the undying Heaven Lord was so confident. At this moment, the two strongest displayed their might. Yi Xian's face was grim. This was a battle between the strongest of all time. The consequences would be unimaginable. Two strongest of all time. Why don't you bring me along for such an interesting event? Suddenly, without waiting for the two strongest to make their move, a deep voice rang out. A dark figure walked over slowly from the end of the universe. The darkness was boundless, devouring the heavens and the earth. With every step this person took, everything around him turned into dust. He was like a terrifying vortex that wanted to devour everything in the chaos. Heaven-devouring demon master? At the next moment, Yi Xian muttered in horror. He did not need to confirm the identity of this person. The aura released by the other party had already explained his terrifying identity. Heaven-devouring, what are you doing here? The undying Heaven Lord retracted his aura and looked at the heaven-devouring demon master coldly. This child is fated with me. I am here to take him away. The heaven-devouring demon master was dressed in black. He had an extraordinarily handsome face. The heaven-devouring demon light circled around his body, as though he did not care about the undying Heaven Lord at all. The gathering of the three strongest of all time. Such a grand event has never happened before. How can I be absent? Chi. A nine-colored divine light pierced through the chaotic universe. A woman dressed in red appeared. Her appearance was indescribable. Perhaps, she could only be described as a beauty that could topple all living things. Extreme Love Master? When the fourth strongest of all time appeared, the three strongest of all time could not remain calm. Their brows were tightly knitted together, and an oppressive atmosphere was born. The Chaos Verse, the 10 Great Yuans. Since we the strongest want to gather together, how can I be absent? Boom, boom, boom. An ancient demonic figure stepped into the starry universe. The extreme demonic light that rolled across the chaotic universe pierced through the heavens. He was the extreme demonic master of the 9th Yuan Hui. He was also an extremely terrifying strongest of all time. Since you are all here, there is no need for me to hide. Boom! Heaven and earth were destroyed. Massacre shook the heavens. A destructive halo bloomed at the end of the starry universe. The terrifying destructive light pierced through the starry river and headed towards Yi Xian. Chapter 1309. He was the Lord of Destruction of the 6th Aeon, and an extremely terrifying strongest of the eons. In his era, anyone who went against him was turned into bones. No living being could escape from the calamity. The boundless secular world is a place where karma is born. This child is fated to be with me, so I naturally want to meet him. A beam of red light streaked across the starry universe. A woman in green floated over. The power of People Dao circled around her. Her appearance wasn't as stunning as the Extreme Love Masters, but she had a dignified and noble air about her. Her eyes were calm and composed like autumn waters. The Lord of Human Dao of the 5th Aeon was the strongest of the eons. She believed in the Dao of Karma, and was an existence that shouldn't be trifled with. At this moment, a total of 7 strongest of the eons were gathered here. Only the Lord of all spirits of the 10th Aeon, the Lord of Chaos, and the Lord of Destiny hadn't appeared. The 7 strongest of the eons were like the heavens. Not to mention the 10th Aeon. Even in the 9 eons, these strongest of the eons rarely gathered together. If the outside world knew that the 7 strongest of the eons were gathered here, their eyeballs would probably fall out of their sockets. They're all here. Why? Do all of you want to take this child away? Even though the undying Heaven Lord was as domineering as the heavens and didn't allow anyone to go against her will, she still had a heavy look in her eyes when she saw so many strongest of the eons here. She might have the confidence to defeat 1 strongest of the eons, but 6 strongest of the eons were here. The meaning behind this wasn't so simple. I won't think too much. This child cultivates the boundless secular world, and is born of karma with me. I'm going to take him back to the Human Tao Sacred Palace. I hope you can help me, the Lord of Human Tao said calmly. Sister, you must be joking. If we help you, who can help us? The Extreme Love Master's crimson robe was charming. At this moment, her smile was like a needle hidden in silk. This child is fated to be with me. Today, I must take him away. If anyone tries to stop me, don't blame me for being ruthless. If the undying Heaven Lord was domineering and arrogant, then the heaven-devouring demon master was simply unrestrained. He didn't put the strongest of the eons in his eyes at all. His words were full of arrogance. Devouring heaven, you only achieved the Tao in the 7th Aeon. How dare you speak such arrogant words? The undying Heaven Lord rebuked coldly. Buddy, other people might have you in their eyes, but I, the heaven-devouring beast, don't. If you're not convinced, feel free to fight me. Rumble. Devouring the heavens, devouring the earth, dominating the primordial chaos. The heaven-devouring demon lord displayed a domineering spirit that was unparalleled throughout the ages. His heaven-devouring demonic art stirred up the chaos verse, unleashing an aura that could devour all things. You, the undying Heaven Lord's face turned cold and gloomy. His extermination divine light shot out as he stared at the devouring heaven demon lord. Undying, you may have achieved your Tao earlier than us, but that doesn't mean you are invincible among us. I, the supreme demon, have long wanted to experience your techniques. The Lord of the Extreme Fiend's demonic light filled the skies. With every step he took, the entire chaos verse changed color as he displayed his supreme might. It's not good to fight two against one. Big brother undying, let me help you. Boom. The Lord of Destruction strode forward. That destructive beam of light was far too terrifying. It was unknown how many chaotic starry skies had been destroyed, resulting in terrifying consequences. At this moment, the gathering of the 7 supreme experts had turned into a chaotic mess. Everyone wanted to take Yi Xian away, but they all had their own selfish motives. However, the atmosphere was far too oppressive. No one dared to make the first move. Otherwise, there would be a great calamity. The 7 supreme experts have gathered. But have you all forgotten who is the leader of the 10th Aeon? Rumble. The primordial heavenly might shook the primordial chaos. A beam of primordial heavenly might seemed to have broken through the chaos verse. A figure with primordial heavenly might was walking towards the crowd. The power of 10,000 spirits revolved around his body. The primordial heavenly might was augmented by the laws of primordial heavenly might around him. Primordial heavenly might, Lord of all spirits. He was the leader of the 10th Aeon. He was also the one who had achieved his Tao. He was also the newly promoted supreme expert of the 10th Aeon. When the Lord of all spirits slowly walked over, the 7 supreme experts frowned. Their expressions instantly turned solemn, as a hint of fear flashed across their eyes. It wasn't that the Lord of all spirits' cultivation base made the 7 supreme experts fearful. It was that the Lord of all spirits was the current supreme expert of the 10th Aeon. He was also the true ruler of the 10th Aeon, the heavenly heart of the great Tao, the laws of primordial chaos. As everyone knew, every Aeon would give birth to a supreme expert of the primordial heavenly might, and this supreme expert of the primordial heavenly might would rule for 1,289,300,000 years. It was also known as the Aeon. In the Aeon that the supreme expert of the primordial heavenly might attained his Tao, he was the strongest existence. He was augmented by the laws of primordial heavenly might, and the heavenly heart of the great Tao was compatible with him. In addition to his cultivation base, he was also augmented by the laws of primordial heavenly might. Although the Lord of all spirits was the latest to attain his Tao, he was augmented by the laws of primordial heavenly might, so he was in an invincible position. He could compete with many supreme experts and even suppress them. After all, the Lord of all spirits' control of the 10th Aeon wasn't just for show. He was the one who attained his Tao in the 10th Aeon. Under the augmentation of the laws of primordial heavenly might, he was born with an absolute advantage. This was also the reason why his appearance was feared by many supreme experts. Lord of all spirits, you've only attained your Tao for a little over 100 million years. There are some things you don't understand. I advise you not to get involved in this mess. The undying Heaven Lord warned coldly. The 10th Aeon of the primordial heavenly might of the primordial heavenly might of the 10th Aeon. My words are the law, and my actions are the law. Who do you think you are to threaten me? The Lord of all spirits rebuked coldly. You? The fact that the sky-devouring demon lord didn't put the undying Heaven Lord in his eyes had already infuriated the undying Heaven Lord. Now, even the Lord of all spirits, who had just attained his Tao, dared to reprimand him. However, the undying Heaven Lord only looked at the Lord of all spirits with a gloomy expression. He didn't intend to fight the Lord of all spirits. In the undying Heaven Lord's opinion, the Lord of all spirits wasn't his match. However, the Lord of all spirits had the heavenly heart of primordial heavenly chaos, and was in charge of the 10th Aeon. If he really fought, he definitely wouldn't be a match for the Lord of all spirits. The only way he could fight the Lord of all spirits would be if he fought the Lord of all spirits. However, if he did that, he would also suffer a great calamity. At this moment, Yi Xian had already calmed down. He stared at the 8 supreme experts of the primordial heavenly chaos, who were also the apex existences of the primordial heavenly chaos. A strange glint flashed across his eyes. As expected, those who could become supreme experts of the primordial heavenly chaos were all heaven-shaking figures. None of them were willing to submit to each other. They all believed that they were the strongest, and their hearts of invincibility were as firm as a rock. Yi Xian suddenly understood. Although these supreme experts of the primordial heavenly chaos appeared to be boundlessly domineering, it was precisely because they forged their hearts of invincibility that they were able to ascend to the throne of supreme experts of the primordial heavenly chaos. Chapter 13:10. How dare you? The space-time master roared furiously. His expression was one of extreme fury. His temperament was indifferent and untainted by external matters. However, so many supreme beings did not take him seriously at all. This had already touched his face. There were 3 supreme beings in the chaotic universe. Chaos Destiny. Space-time was known as the strongest in the chaotic universe. As the space-time master, how could he allow other supreme beings to touch the person he wanted to protect? Big Brother Space-time, there is no need for you to be angry. Even though you have the ability to control space-time, this person concerns the future of us utmost beings. Even if Big Brother Spacetime's methods are extraordinary, we utmost beings are not to be trifled with, Extreme Love Master said, hiding a needle in his silk floss. How dare you, bitch? The Space-Time Master seemed approachable, but he was definitely a domineering person. How could he tolerate other supreme beings mocking him? Rumble. Time was like a painting, sealing the sky and trapping the earth. The Space-Time Master stretched out his 5 fingers, and the chaotic universe rumbled and shook. The tide of time covered the sky and covered the earth as it rushed toward the Extreme Love Master. Space-time, don't you go too far. Although the Extreme Love Master was a woman, she could rely on her female body to become a supreme being. This showed that the Extreme Love Master was not so simple. Extreme love. The 9-colored divine light stirred up the chaotic galaxy, and the aura of the 7 emotions and 6 desires filled the sky. She also slapped toward the space-time master, and supreme power burst forth. Boom! The 2 supreme beings attacked together. This was no ordinary matter, but a terrifying attack that shocked the chaotic universe. Bang! 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 Billions of miles of the sea of stars turned into smoke, and countless stars exploded. The supreme power that rolled out spread endlessly, and even the chaotic world shook at this moment. Terrifying. Terrifying to the extreme. The impact of the 2 supreme beings' attack was unimaginable. It was as if the entire chaotic universe was going to be turned upside down. The power contained in it made Yi Xian dumbfounded. This is the power of supreme beings? Yi Xian thought that he had a calm mind, but when he saw the attack of the 2 supreme beings, his heart was touched, turning the universe upside down and shaking the chaos. This was the power that supreme beings should have. Only supreme beings could make such a terrifying attack. Boom! While Yi Xian was in a daze, the Lord of Extreme Love was sent flying. Although they were both extremely strong, the Lord of Time and Space was indeed much stronger, than the Lord of Extreme Love. This attack directly caused the Lord of Extreme Love to fall into a disadvantage. Spacetime, do you really think I'm afraid of you? Extreme Love Master's body steadied. Her beautiful face was filled with shame and anger. She was surrounded by 9-colored light, and the strongest power around her began to rise. It was clear that Time and Space Master's attack had humiliated her, and that made her angry. Kid, come with me. Suddenly, the heaven-devouring demon master appeared beside Yi Xian in a strange manner. His 5 fingers reached out towards Yi Xian. Clearly, he wanted to kidnap Yi Xian while the 2 supreme beings were fighting. You dare? The moment the heaven-devouring demon master made his move, the other utmost powerful beings bellowed out and struck out at the heaven-devouring demon master instantly. As for the spacetime master, he had been on guard against the other utmost powerful beings as he slapped out with his spacetime power at the heaven-devouring demon master. You guys really make me feel disgusted. The heaven-devouring demon master frowned. Even though he was known to be able to devour the heavens and devour the earth, he did not dare to take this attack from so many utmost powerful beings head-on. Instead, he retreated. Boom! The 7 utmost powerful beings struck out at the same time, and even the chaotic starry skies were blasted out endlessly. This supreme power annihilated the vast starry skies, and not even a speck of dust was left behind. Yi Xian, hide behind me. Wang. The space-time master's figure changed as he shielded Yi Xian behind him. The power of time covered Yi Xian, and he would not allow the other utmost powerful beings to touch Yi Xian in any way. Space-time, you can't protect him. The undying Heaven Lord strode forward. His annihilation god light pierced through the heavens and cracked the earth. His eyes were like the cosmos rotating as a long black saber appeared in his hands. Slash! The undying Heaven Lord slashed out with his saber, as though he wanted to split the entire chaotic universe apart. The space-time master's face was grim as a time spear appeared and went towards the undying Heaven Lord. Clang! The saber and spear collided, and the chaos shattered. Immeasurable supreme power burst forth between the two of them, and the chaotic starry skies around them were annihilated inch by inch. That power that could annihilate everything was released to the extreme. Do it! The Destruction Master roared and struck out with his palm at Yi Xian. Scram! The Extreme Devil Master was extremely domineering. His demonic fist seemed to be able to pierce through the cosmos as it blasted towards the Destruction Master. Come! The Human Tao Master's expression was calm. She beckoned towards Yi Xian with her 5 fingers, and the power of karma rippled out, causing Yi Xian's body to unconsciously fly towards her. Go! The Extreme Emotion Master waved out a 9-colored satin, which swept towards Yi Xian. Scram, all of you! He belongs to me. The Lord of all spirits roared at the chaos, and the light of all spirits exploded. He charged towards the Human Tao Master and the Extreme Emotion Master alone. Although he had just attained Tao 100 million years ago, in the current 10th Yuan Hui, he had the support of the Chaos Rules of Order, and naturally had the power to suppress other supreme beings. The chaos was chaotic, and the supreme beings displayed their might. Many supreme beings instantly clashed, and Yi Xian became the target of everyone's desire. His body was completely out of his control, and he was constantly floating in the starry cosmos. Fortunately, although the 8 supreme beings were fighting fiercely, all of them had their reservations and had been controlling their strength. Otherwise, if Yi Xian came into contact with them, he would definitely be reduced to ashes. Damn it! Yi Xian's expression was gloomy. At this moment, he was like a toy in the hands of the 8 supreme beings. No matter how he resisted, it was useless. Ha ha ha! Suddenly, a maniacal laughter rang out. The heaven-devouring demon master tore open a crack and appeared in front of Yi Xian. The heaven-devouring demon light bloomed to the extreme, and his 5 fingers pressed onto Yi Xian's shoulder. Kid, you and I are fated. From today onwards, follow me. Heaven devouring, you're courting death. The undying Heaven Master rushed over and slashed at the heaven-devouring demon master with his saber. His other hand also grabbed at Yi Xian. Undying, do you really think I'm afraid of you? Facing the undying Heaven Master's attack, the heaven-devouring demon master roared coldly. Similarly, A demonic saber appeared in his hand, and he met the undying Heaven Master's attack. Clang! The two sabers clashed, and the starry cosmos was split open. The burst of saber light tore through the endless chaos, and the power it contained was simply shocking. The two of them were equally matched, and neither could do anything to the other. However, both of them held onto Yi Xian's shoulder tightly, and neither of them took half a step back. How dare you? The space-time master rushed over, and also pressed a hand on Yi Xian's shoulder. There was no way he would let these two succeed. Today, no one can take him away. The destruction master rushed over, and also pressed a palm on Yi Xian's shoulder. He and I are fated. How dare you covet him? The extreme devil master also rushed over and slapped Yi Xian's head. Before I achieved my Tao, I was defeated by him. In this life, I will definitely fight with him. Whoever dares to stop me will be killed without mercy. The myriad spirit master's eyes were bloodshot. He rushed in front of Yi Xian, and grabbed Yi Xian's shoulder. The power of all spirits was released to the extreme. Chapter 13:11. With the six utmost powerful beings controlling Yi Xian, the human Tao master and extreme emotion master did not want to be left behind as well. They appeared beside Yi Xian at the same time, and grabbed onto Yi Xian's body, releasing their utmost powers as well. At this moment, an extremely horrifying scene appeared. In the vast universe, in the boundless starry skies, Yi Xian was being pulled by the 8 utmost powerful beings. Thankfully, even though the 8 of them were releasing their godly powers, they were still controlling their own powers. Otherwise, Yi Xian would definitely die in the hands of the 8 utmost powerful beings. How dare you guys fight with me? I'll definitely settle this with you guys one by one in the future. The undying Heaven Master roared out in rage. However, he did not dare to strike out at this moment. If he were to strike out, Yi Xian would definitely die in this chaotic situation. This was not an outcome that he wanted to see. Undying, you think you're worthy of fighting with me? Wait till I break the final taboo of the heaven-devouring demonic skill. I'll definitely skin you alive. The heaven-devouring demon master roared out tyrannically. Whoever dares to touch him today, I'll send him into the river of time. The space-time master was enraged to the extreme. He was already prepared to activate the river of time to rescue Yi Xian from the hands of these utmost powerful beings. Big brother space-time, you're joking. The river of time has existed since ancient times. So what if you're the space-time master? Do you think that we're afraid that we won't be able to walk out of the river of time? The extreme emotion master sneered. At this moment, the 8 utmost powerful beings were in a stalemate. None of them were willing to back down even a little bit, as they held on to Yi Xian tightly, refusing to let go. No one could break this stalemate. This stalemate did not last for long before it was broken by someone. Alright. Since none of you are willing to let go, I'll plant a heaven-devouring seed in him, and have him accept my inheritance completely. By then, I'll see what you guys can do to me. The heaven-devouring demon master roared out in rage, as his heaven-devouring demonic skill was raised to its peak. A strand of heaven-devouring demonic light surged out from his arm towards Yi Xian wildly. How dare you? The expressions of the 7 utmost powerful beings changed as they roared out at the heaven-devouring demon master. One had to know that if the heaven-devouring demon lord planted the heaven-devouring seed in Yi Xian's body, it would be equivalent to accepting the inheritance of the heaven-devouring demon lord. Even if they could snatch Yi Xian away, it would be useless in the future. Fine. Since you dare to do this, then don't blame me. The undying heaven lord roared in anger. The power of nirvanic extermination surged out from his body, and similarly, he extended his arm and rushed towards Yi Xian. In your dreams, the Lord of the Extreme Fiend roared coldly, sending his Extreme Fiend power, surging towards Yi Xian as well. Space-time, karma, myriad spirits, extreme emotion, destroy. At this moment, the other utmost powerful beings no longer had any reservations, as they channeled their utmost powers into Yi Xian. All of them wanted to plant a seed within Yi Xian's body. When the 8 utmost powerful beings did this, Yi Xian was instantly met with an unimaginable calamity. What a supreme power! And these were the utmost powers of the 8 utmost powerful beings. Now that they were channeling into Yi Xian's body at the same time, the consequences were unimaginable. Even the 8 utmost powerful beings did not know what was going to happen. Arg! Yi Xian howled in agony as his body swelled up like a rubber ball. The powers of the 8 utmost powerful beings were running wildly within his body, as though they were going to explode him alive. Yi Xian had never felt such pain before. Even words like living a life worse than death could not describe the calamity that Yi Xian was in right now. His physical body and soul felt as though they were being ground down bit by bit at this moment. Stop! Stop! Looking at Yi Xian's swollen body, the Lord of Spacetime's expression changed drastically as he roared furiously. If this goes on, he will die. None of us will be able to get him. If I can't get him, I will destroy him. None of you can get him. The Lord of Destruction laughed maniacally. He controlled the power of destruction to begin with, so his temperament was extremely extreme. Kid, if you want to live, hurry up and accept my heaven-devouring legacy. Then you won't have to endure this pain anymore. The heaven-devouring demon master roared madly. Yi Xian, hang in there. The Lord of Spacetime roared furiously. He was constantly thinking of ways to save Yi Xian. Countless ideas flashed through his mind, but he rejected them all one by one. Arg! Yi Xian's body swelled to the extreme as it cracked inch by inch. He was on the verge of exploding as large amounts of blood gushed out from his body. At this critical moment, an ancient and boundless voice rang out in the chaotic universe. Infinite chaos. Rumble. The primal chaos trembled, and everything fell silent. That strand of primal chaos light illuminated the entire universe and instantly covered Yi Xian. The 8 supreme experts retreated with a loud bang, and Yi Xian's entire body was enveloped by the primal chaos light. Dong! 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 As vast and boundless as the heavens, 2 boundlessly imposing figures walked out from the ends of the primal chaos. The aura of chaos and destiny covered the heavens and earth, and the sound of footsteps could be heard from all over the universe. Chaos and destiny. When the 2 figures walked step by step towards the 8 paragons, the 8 paragons' expressions changed. Then they fell silent, and a hint of fear flashed through their eyes. Chaos verse 12 periods. The first period was the Lord of Chaos. He was also the first person to achieve the Tao. He was known as the strongest person in the Chaos verse, and he controlled the legendary river of chaos. The second period was the Lord of Destiny. He was the second person to achieve the Tao. He was known to control the trajectory of the Chaos verse fate, and everything in the universe rested in his heart. When the 2 explorers of the universe arrived, there was a huge change in the situation. The 8 paragons' expressions naturally turned ugly. This child is the destined one. He wants to return to the Chaos Shrine with me. All of you back off. The Lord of Chaos figure was blurry, and no one could see his appearance clearly. However, when he spoke, the entire Chaos verse hummed, and the sound of sutras could be heard. It was as if no one could defy his will. In the Chaos verse, destiny engenders each other. This child is not under the control of destiny. In the future, he might be able to unravel the secrets of the land of reincarnation. The Lord of Destiny was dressed in white, and his figure was illusory. The power of destiny circled around him, and many illusions appeared behind him. It was as if he was the embodiment of destiny, and recorded the fate of all living beings in the Chaos verse. What a joke! My 2 brothers have said so much just to take this child away. Unfortunately, you can't take him away. Even in the face of the Lord of Chaos and Lord of Destiny, the undying Heaven Lord showed no fear. He pointed the blade in his hand at the 2 of them, and the annihilation light seemed to penetrate the Chaos verse. Both of you are paragons. Although the 2 of you achieved the Tao earlier, it won't be that easy for you to take this child away. The sky-devouring demon master was unwilling to fall behind, and he also spoke coldly. Although the Lord of Chaos and Lord of Destiny were here, the paragons present were not afraid. No one was willing to take half a step back. This was because their future path was related to them, and it was also related to their dignity as paragons. No one would allow themselves to lose this opportunity. Arg! Suddenly, a mournful scream rang out. Although the 8 paragons were forced to retreat by the Lord of Chaos, the seeds they planted in Yi Xian's body were still wreaking havoc. The pain they inflicted on Yi Xian was unimaginable. Chapter 13:12. Freeze! The space-time master's expression was cold as he pointed a finger at Yi Xian. The power of time froze him, delaying his calamity. The 10 strongest are all gathered here. It seems that this little friend of mine is no ordinary person. He can actually gather all of us here. The space-time master sneered. His gaze was extremely cold. I don't want to waste time on nonsense. He cultivated the undying immortal scripture, which means that he inherited my legacy. Today, I will take him away. I hope you won't stop me, the undying heaven master said in a low voice. What a joke! The sky-devouring demon master stepped out and sneered. He doesn't just have the power of nirvanic destruction. He also cultivated the general principles of the sky-devouring demonic art. Can you say that he is my successor? This child is fated to be with me. The power of karma is entangled with each other. None of you can take him away, the human Tao master said coldly. He also didn't back down. Big brothers, you must be joking. He is not under the control of the chaotic universe. It is very likely that he will unravel the secrets of the chaotic reincarnation. It is related to our future lives. How can you take him away just because you want to? The extreme love master sneered. We are the strongest. There is no need to say anything more. Since none of you are willing to back down, then let's rely on our own abilities. The destruction master's murderous intent was very strong. They were all the strongest, so none of them would submit to the other. Then, they would fight to see who would emerge victorious. I have the same intention, the extreme demon master said coldly. The lord of the extreme devil coldly agreed. The power of the extreme devil rippled with a loud rumble. The billowing sea of devil chi had already appeared, and his eyes had turned blood red. The chaotic universe has 12 Yuanwis. This era is the 10th Yuanwis. I, the lord of all spirits, suppress this era. It seems that you don't put me in your eyes. Rumble. The lord of all spirits was indeed terrifying. He took a step forward, and the might of the chaotic universe bloomed. He merged with the chaotic universe, and the absolute power he displayed instantly changed everyone's expression. Logically speaking, the Lord of Chaos was the strongest among the 10 strongest, followed by the Destiny Spacetime. However, the birth of every Yuanhui paramount expert would be a perfect match for the Lord of all spirits. Not even the Lord of Chaos would necessarily be a match for him. The eons were like the heavens suppressing the world. This wasn't just a saying. Every supreme expert born in a Yuanhui represented the Chaos verse, and even more so the Great Tao. Their terror was absolutely unimaginable. This was the 10th Eon, the era of the Lord of all spirits. Thus, even though he was facing the 9 supreme beings, he didn't feel the slightest fear. Fellow Taoists, please calm down. It was like the sound of the morning bell, the sound of the Grand Tao. The Master of Chaos finally spoke. His voice was vast, calm, and carried an indescribable charm, and it caused the 9 supreme experts to gradually calm down. The primal chaos is like a chessboard, and all living beings are chess pieces. Even the strongest beings like us are unable to break through the primal chaos impasse, let alone push open that gate of reincarnation. The Master of Primal Chaos spoke slowly. He was narrating a fact, allowing the 9 utmost powerful beings to listen attentively. This child isn't controlled by the Chaos verse, and his life's trajectory isn't recorded in the long river of destiny. His future was once walked in the long river of time. This person has the opportunity that we want, and also the clue that we need to open the gate of reincarnation. Therefore, I suggest that he return to the Chaos Shrine with me. If I can uncover the secret on his body, I will naturally share it with all of you. I can also swear an oath to the Primal Chaos that I will never go back on my oath. The Master of Primal Chaos said a lot. He didn't want to make a move against these supreme experts. Although he believed that he could suppress them, the consequences of making a move were too unpredictable. It was best to settle this matter peacefully. Time, space, and fate are the 3 great laws of the Chaos verse. If you don't agree, then the 3 of us can only take him away by force. The Master of Fate's voice was cold. He controlled the fate of all living beings, and he was born with a transcendent aura. Even when facing the other supreme experts, he still had a lofty attitude. At this moment, the two supreme experts had already expressed their stance. The Master of Spacetime frowned slightly. If he wanted to protect Yi Xian by himself, it was impossible. Only by standing together with the two supreme experts could he give Yi Xian a chance of survival. In the eyes of the Master of Spacetime, although these supreme experts spoke very well and wanted to take Yi Xian as a disciple and make him their successor, they all had their own intentions. In fact, the Master of Spacetime knew very well what each of them was thinking. Take the Immortal Heaven Lord for example. He knew that Yi Xian had the small cauldron, and even made the heaven-destroying halberd recognize him as its master. He just wanted to use Yi Xian as bait to uncover the ultimate secrets of the primal chaos. The heaven-devouring demon master's plan was even simpler. The heaven-devouring demonic art he cultivated was extremely terrifying, and was said to be able to devour the heavens and the earth. However, in the face of other supreme experts, his devouring technique was inadequate. According to the Master of Spacetime's guess, the heaven-devouring demonic art created by the heaven-devouring demon master had reached the end, and Yi Xian's calamity transcender technique was the opportunity for the heaven-devouring demonic art. The heaven-devouring demon master wanted Yi Xian's calamity transcender technique. If he could make the heaven-devouring demonic art take the final step, he would probably be able to devour the other supreme experts. At that time, he would probably become the strongest among the supreme experts, and it was very likely that he would be able to open the gate of reincarnation. As for the other supreme experts, their thoughts were similar. Everyone had their own ideas about Yi Xian, whether it was for themselves or for the future variables. As long as they had Yi Xian in their hands, they would be able to sit firmly on the fishing platform. Boom! The Master of Spacetime took a step forward. He had finally made a decision to stand together with the primal chaos and destiny. When the three supreme experts stood together, the expressions of the other seven supreme experts suddenly changed. Even the Lord of all spirits, who had always been incomparably powerful, had a heavy look in his eyes. The primal chaos and destiny spacetime. When the three of them were together, it was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. Rather, it almost encompassed the most basic order of the chaotic universe. Primal chaos, destiny and spacetime. These three supreme powers were the supreme laws. The operation of all things in the primal chaos could not be separated from these three great laws. Therefore, the three of them were also known as the strongest in the primal chaos. At this moment, the three supreme experts were standing together. Even if the Lord of all spirits had achieved his Tao, and was supported by the laws of primal chaos, facing the pressure of the three supreme experts, he admitted that he was not their match. Silence, silence, a deathly silence. The seven supreme experts' expressions were solemn, as they stared at the three supreme experts. Unknowingly, the auras of the seven people were connected, and a chaotic and austere atmosphere quietly grew. Primal chaos. Do you really want to start a war between the supreme experts? The undying Heaven Lord said coldly. A trace of ruthlessness flashed through his eyes. The light of annihilation quietly circulated, and the surrounding starry sky was annihilated inch by inch. In the universe, primal chaos reigns supreme. The Lord of primal chaos words were concise and comprehensive. Although his voice was calm, it contained an inviolable will. With just you, the undying Heaven Lord laughed maniacally. Although he was wary of the Lord of primal chaos, it was only a slight fear. As one of the supreme experts of all time, he, the undying Heaven Lord, was unparalleled. How could he take half a step back, just because the three supreme experts joined forces? Chapter 13:13. The undying Heaven Saber struck out decisively. The black saber seemed to be able to split the universe apart, as the saber light, that pierced through the universe, slashed out at the three utmost powerful beings. Destiny. Boom. The Master of Destiny struck out with a single palm, as the power of destiny gushed out. Although it did not seem like it was revealing any power, It turned the saber of the undying Heaven Master into nothingness in the next moment. What was destiny? The primal chaos had its own destiny. Everything was contained within destiny, and no one could reverse it. That was the terror of destiny. Everyone, what are you waiting for? Even though the undying Heaven Master had a tyrannical temperament, he was not an arrogant person. Against the three strongest beings in the chaotic universe, there was no way he could take them on alone. Naturally, he had to remind the other six utmost powerful beings to give it their all. Only then would they be able to take down Yi Xian. Do it! The Master of Destruction was the most ferocious, as he sent out an extremely powerful technique that pierced through the Milky Way of the universe. God knows how many stars were shattered as he struck out at the three utmost powerful beings. Everyone says that the three of you are the strongest beings in the chaotic universe. But your master here thinks that it's nothing but a joke. Today, I'm here to seek guidance from the three of you. The heaven-devouring demon master took a step forward, as his heaven-devouring demonic skill was able to annihilate everything. That terrifying devouring power was released to its limits, as it formed an extremely powerful technique that struck out at the three utmost powerful beings. Extreme Demon Heaven's Wrath. The Extreme Demon Master roared out as his demonic light shone through the ages, as he struck out at the three utmost powerful beings. The Master of Human Tao, the power of karma. The Master of Extreme Emotions, the power of extreme emotions. As for the Master of all spirits who had attained his Tao, he was even more domineering than anyone else. When all seven of them struck out at the same time, the consequences were unimaginable. Primal Chaos. The Master of Primal Chaos finally struck out, as that invincible power of Primal Chaos spread out. Destiny. The Master of Destiny did not want to be left behind. That power of destiny, that controlled the destiny of all spirits, was released, as well as a terrifying might. Spacetime. The Master of Time struck out as well. Waves of time rolled out, as though the entire universe's spacetime had come to a standstill. Kill. Xing. When the 10 utmost powerful beings struck out at the same time, the entire chaotic universe trembled violently as everything turned to dust. The terrifying shockwaves from the 10 utmost powerful beings affected the entire universe, as the destruction caused by them spread out endlessly. Bang bang bang. It had to be said that the three ultimate existences were indeed terrifying. Even when facing the combined attacks of the 7 ultimate existences, the 3 ultimate existences were not at a disadvantage at all. Instead, they were able to force the 7 ultimate existences back with a single attack. Logically speaking, in a battle of 3 against 7, the 7 should have an absolute advantage. However, the combination of chaos and destiny represented the order of chaos. It wasn't as simple as 1 plus 1. Even the 7 couldn't gain any advantage. Instead, they were at a slight disadvantage. However, each of the 10 strongest beings had condensed an ultimate body. Wanting to kill each other was simply nonsense. This battle would definitely be extremely time-consuming. Everyone, let's not hide anything. Today's matter concerns our future. How can we allow ourselves to hide anything? The undying Heaven Lord coldly roared as he rushed towards the 3 paragons once more. The other 6 paragons exchanged glances with one another, as they frenziedly circulated their supreme techniques. Today, there was no way they would allow the 3 paragons to bring Yi Xian away. Rumble. The chaos exploded and the laws collapsed. When the 7 paragons truly attacked, the 3 paragons instantly felt an extremely terrifying pressure. Each of the 7 paragons had attained the Tao in a Yuan Hui. They were innately peerless characters. Whether it was their Tao heart or cultivation, they were already at the pinnacle of the chaotic universe. Even though the 3 paragons had joined forces and represented the basic order of the chaotic universe, it wasn't an easy task to suppress the 7 paragons. Bang bang bang. Heaven and earth shook as the paragons unleashed their divine might. The 10 strongest beings finally engaged in a chaotic battle. For a moment, the chaotic universe trembled incessantly, turning this part of the world into a forbidden zone for the paragons. At this moment, Yi Xian was suffering both physically and mentally. However, with the chaos energy surrounding him, he was able to suppress the pain. Moreover, with his powerful willpower, his mind gradually cleared up. I'm so weak and pitiful. Yi Xian's lips curled into a self-deprecating smile as he watched the 10 strongest beings unleash one supreme technique after another. However, his eyes were filled with extreme bitterness and unwillingness. Yi Xian was a very clear-headed person. He could clearly see the situation before him. No matter who won or lost, he, Yi Xian, would not have a good ending. The Space-Time Lord did indeed want to protect him, but the Chaos and Fate Lord didn't share the same thoughts. As for the other 7 paragons, there was no need to even mention them. The Space-Time Lord was indeed very powerful, and was even known as the 3rd most powerful being in the chaotic universe. However, he was alone and couldn't protect Yi Xian. What to do? A difficult problem was placed before Yi Xian. If he wanted to escape this hopeless situation, he could only rely on himself. Future transformation technique? This idea instantly flashed through Yi Xian's mind, but he immediately rejected it. Future transformation technique was a forbidden technique. Back then, he'd only used it under the Yin-Yang divine punishment when he had the right time, place, and people to summon his illusory future self. In the current situation that Yi Xian was facing, it was impossible for him to use the future transformation technique. Furthermore, taking a step back, even if he could use the future transformation technique, even if he was powerful in the future, he would still be unable to break through this dangerous situation when facing the 10 strongest experts. At this moment, Yi Xian resisted the raging power of the 8 paragons in his body as he racked his brains for a way out of this perilous situation. His brows were tightly knitted together as he constantly weighed the pros and cons. In fact, before Yi Xian had come to the Shrine of Immortality, he'd already planned to burn all his boats. After all, he was extremely wary of the Immortal God Lord. But now the situation had changed greatly. The 10 paragons had arrived. This situation could be said to be unprecedented since ancient times. He didn't know if his greatest trump card would work. Yi Xian's trump card was very simple. It was the pair of ominous eyes in the river of time. Even his future self was extremely wary of this pair of ominous eyes. This also showed that the ominous eyes were absolutely terrifying to the extreme. However, the space-time master had once said that this pair of ominous eyes must not be drawn out from the river of time. Otherwise, it would bring about an unimaginable calamity and endanger Yi Xian's life. However, Yi Xian had no other choice now. He could only rely on the ominous eyes in the river of time. There was no other way to escape this perilous situation. As for his life, he couldn't care less now because there was a high chance that he would die if he fell into the hands of these paragons. In fact, Yi Xian didn't want to use this trump card because it was a double-edged sword. He didn't know what would happen if he drew out the pair of ominous eyes, let alone the terrifying consequences. Chapter 13-14. The thing that worried Yi Xian the most was the fact that the 8 ultimate seeds had been planted in him. They were frantically fighting for control in his body, almost bursting his body apart. This had already plunged Yi Xian into a life and death crisis. If it weren't for the Master of Chaos suppressing the 8 ultimate powers in his body, he would have already exploded and died. There was no path ahead. Yi Xian could only break through this dead end. Only then could he see a glimmer of hope. Even if he really drew out the ominous eyes and something terrifying happened, Yi Xian would have no regrets. Although Yi Xian had already made up his mind, he couldn't move his body and couldn't use his arts. He couldn't summon the river of time at all, let alone draw out the ominous eyes. Opportunity. Yi Xian was missing an opportunity. Only by grasping the most critical moment would he be able to break out of this life and death situation. Rumble. The starry universe collapsed horribly. The 10 ultimate experts were the pinnacle existences of the chaotic universe. At this moment, the power that erupted from their chaotic battle was simply too terrifying. Clang, clang, clang. The battle between the 10 ultimate experts had reached a white-hot stage. They were all going all out. Divine weapons appeared in each of their hands. Every strike they struck out caused the starry sky to shatter. Chaos was the fate of spacetime. This represented the order of the chaotic universe. Although the 7 ultimate experts were also terrifying, the two sides were in a deadlock, unable to determine a victor. Moreover, each of the ultimate experts had condensed an ultimate body after attaining the Tao. This kind of ultimate body was undying and indestructible. Unless the ultimate experts of all eternity wanted to fight to the death, ordinary ultimate techniques wouldn't be able to cause any harm to either side. Bang! All of a sudden, a shattering sound that shook the universe rang out. The 3 utmost powerful beings and the 7 utmost powerful beings clashed and finally stopped at this moment. However, everyone's faces were flushed red, and the utmost powerful light that surrounded them was even more dazzling to the eye. You guys are too presumptuous. The master of primal chaos was boundlessly mighty. The light of primal chaos blotted out the sky and covered the earth. That wisp of peerless primal chaos energy was quietly growing, causing the universe to rumble and rumble. Moreover, the grand Tao of primal chaos rippled out. The master of chaos was known as the number 1 being in the entire chaotic universe. His temperament could be said to be extremely aloof, but at this moment he was truly enraged. It wasn't just because he was fighting over Yi Xian, but also because these utmost powerful beings were challenging his authority. The Lord of Primal Chaos was the first person to achieve the Tao in the Primal Chaos universe. He had experienced 10 Primal Chaos cycles, and his cultivation base could be said to be invincible in the Primal Chaos. Today, the 7 Supreme Beings had actually dared to attack him. This had already crossed his bottom line and challenged his dignity as the master of Primal Chaos. Hun Dun, although you have attained Tao earlier, you are not qualified to lecture us. The sky-devouring demon master said coldly. As an ultimate expert, when had he ever feared anyone? Brother Primal Chaos, I've told you long ago that there's no need to be merciful to these people. Only by directly suppressing them will we be able to save a lot of trouble. The Master of Fate said coldly. His grayish-white eyes were rotating, just like the merciless Fate. There was no emotion in them at all. If one were to ask who was the most merciless among the 10 greatest experts, it would undoubtedly be the Master of Fate. His temperament and way of thinking were both in line with the Tao of mercilessness. What was fate? Fate was a path that determined the birth and death of living beings. Everything in the world had to move forward according to the path of fate, and fate did not contain the slightest bit of emotion. Rather than saying that the Master of Fate cultivated the Tao of fate, it was more accurate to say that he cultivated the Tao of mercilessness. In his knowledge, there was no emotion that humans should have. There was only a belief in fate. As an ultimate expert, you want to suppress us? Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue, Fate? The undying Heaven Lord said coldly, pointing the heavenly blade in his hand at the 3 ultimate experts. Brother Primal Chaos, what are you waiting for? The Master of Fate did not bother to argue with words. His eyes were rotating slightly, and his voice resounded in the vast starry sky. Rumble! Suddenly, the Master of Primal Chaos stretched out his arms, and a chaotic aura soared into the sky. His body was emitting a boundless chaotic light, and the sound of sutras could be heard from his mouth. It was as if he was summoning something to descend. Not good, he's summoning the river of chaos, the Master of Destruction exclaimed, and the other ultimate experts' faces changed. Fate! Rumble! The Master of Fate was chanting as well, and the power of fate that had existed since ancient times rippled out. The wheel of fate appeared behind him, and it was rotating. Clearly, he was summoning the legendary river of fate. Stop them! The undying Heaven Lord roared coldly, and charged towards the 2 of them. If the 2 of them were to summon the 2 great rivers, they might really be able to suppress them on the spot. Even without the undying Heaven Lord's reminder, the other 6 ultimate experts attacked. Because all of them knew that if they were to really summon the 2 great rivers, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. Rumble! The 7 ultimate experts attacked, but the legendary river of chaos and river of fate had already appeared in the starry sky. The sound of rolling waves could be heard in the chaotic universe. The chaos winding river and destiny winding river rumbled. 2 streams of winding river shot out, instantly blocking before the two utmost powerful beings, and blocking the combined attack of the 7 utmost powerful beings. The chaotic universe had 12 periods. Within this chaotic universe, there were 3 great rivers. The first was chaos, the second was time, and the third was fate. The 3 great rivers represented the most basic order of the chaos verse. Legend had it that the 3 great rivers had existed even before the primordial chaos had been formed. They had existed for far longer than the Chaos Lord himself, and they were most likely related to the last chaos verse that had been destroyed. Even if the two of you are summoning the 2 great rivers, we ultimate experts are not to be trifled with either. The Lord of the Extreme Demonic roared out madly. His power of extreme demonic pierced through the starry sky and the universe as it struck out at the 2 great rivers. Even though the other 6 ultimate experts did not say anything, their ultimate techniques were getting more and more horrifying. At this moment, the Master of Chaos and the Master of Fate were not having it easy either. Even though the 2 of them could summon the 2 great rivers to fight, they had to expend a huge amount of their cultivation bases. After all, every single one of the 7 ultimate experts were at the pinnacle of their respective eras. The combined might of the 7 of them was something that the 2 of them could not suppress, with just the 2 of them summoning the 2 great rivers. Time, if we don't fight now, what are we waiting for? The Master of Fate barked out coldly. At this moment, the Master of Time frowned as a look of hesitation flashed through his eyes. If he were to summon the River of Time and combine it with fate and chaos, he would definitely be able to suppress the 7 ultimate experts. After all, the appearance of the 3 great rivers at the same time could suppress everything. However, the Master of Time's thoughts were not here. He had been thinking about how to rescue Yi Xian. If he were to suppress the 7 ultimate experts, fate and chaos would not let Yi Xian off either. Time, the 3 of us are on the same side. If you don't make a move now, you won't have a chance anymore. If this lad falls into their hands, he won't have a good ending. Sensing that the Master of Time had not summoned the River of Time after a long time, the Master of Fate's face changed as he roared out. Chapter 13:15. Time. Finally, the Space-Time Master's gaze hardened. At this moment he had no other choice. Just as the Destiny Master had said, it was better for Yi Xian to fall into the hands of the 3 of them rather than the 7 of them. Whoosh, time surged, penetrating through the ages. The River of Time that traversed the starry sky was manifested. The power of time that had existed since ancient times spread out, and its aura was faintly connected with the 2 great rivers. Suppress! Primal Chaos, Destiny, and Space-Time roared as they activated their 3 rivers. The supreme power they unleashed caused the entire Chaos-verse to faintly start to stagnate. Good. The Undying Heaven Master said 3 consecutive words. Although his expression was extremely solemn, his eyes were burning with fighting spirit. He said, "Everyone knows that you 3 control the 3 great rivers, and are known as the 3 supreme masters of the primal chaos. Today, I will personally experience your strength, and see how capable the 3 of you are." The other 6 supreme masters' expressions were solemn, but there was no fear on their faces, because each of them believed that they were the strongest in the primal chaos. Even when facing the 3 great rivers, they still had an invincible heart. Kill. The Undying Heaven Master vaguely became the odd man out. He was the first to attack the 3 supreme masters, and the other 6 followed closely behind. This time no one held back, because when faced with the appearance of the 3 great rivers, any holding back could lead to misfortune. Boom! The 3 long rivers had existed since the ancient times. Under the channeling of the 3 utmost powerful beings, they brought forth an immeasurable amount of godly might. As for the 7 utmost powerful beings, their utmost might bolted out at the 3 long rivers as well. Rumble! The universe shook, and the primal chaos roared. When the 3 great rivers merged together and suppressed the 7 supreme masters, the 7 supreme masters roared at the primal chaos and struck out with their strongest attacks. Bang! The sea of stars was destroyed, and everything turned to dust. One had to admit that the power contained in the 3 great rivers was extremely terrifying. When the 2 sides struck out with this all-encompassing attack, the 7 supreme masters were instantly sent flying. Blood spurted out from their mouths, and even their supreme battle bodies showed traces of cracks. Barf! The 7 utmost powerful beings spat out a mouthful of fresh blood at the same time. As the blood splattered out, it was unknown just how many huge stars had been annihilated. This was the blood of utmost powerful beings, and contained a power that could destroy the heavens and earth. From this strike, he was finally able to see which of the 7 supreme experts was stronger, and which was weaker. The undying Heaven Lord and the heaven-devouring demon master fared better. They only coughed out blood, and quickly stabilized themselves. The human Tao master fared slightly worse. A crack appeared on his body. Next up were Lord Extreme Devil and Lord Destruction. The 2 of them had been blasted hundreds of millions of kilometers away. 3 cracks could be seen on their bodies as they made their way back. From this, it could be seen that the 2 of them were slightly weaker than the undying Heaven Lord's group. As for the Lord of all spirits, because he had attained his Tao in the current era, he had the augmentation of the chaos precepts. Traces of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth, but he did not suffer too much damage. He could not compare to the other utmost powerful beings. The weakest of the 7 was the Extreme Love Master. Her clothes were stained red with fresh blood. Spiderweb-like cracks appeared on her slender body. Right now, her peerlessly beautiful face was filled with shame and anger. As an utmost powerful being, each of them had forged a heart of invincibility. In this strike, she was the most unbearable. This was something that she could not accept, and her heart was filled with shame and anger. On the other side, the 3 utmost powerful beings were not having it easy either. Even though they had obtained a complete victory in this strike, they might have managed to injure the 7 utmost powerful beings. However, they had expended a huge amount of their cultivation bases. Right now their faces were somewhat pale. After all, activating the 3 winding rivers was no child's play. It was something that consumed a lot of their cultivation bases. Kill! At the next moment, before the 3 utmost powerful beings could react, the 7 of them attacked together. Just this strike alone was not enough to scare them off. Since the 3 utmost powerful beings had dared to summon the 3 winding rivers to suppress them, they naturally would not sit and wait for death. Rumble! The 10 utmost powerful beings once again engaged in a chaotic battle. This time, with the appearance of the 3 winding rivers, the situation was one-sided. It directly put the 7 utmost powerful beings in a precarious situation. They had almost no power to fight back. However, suppressing the 7 utmost powerful beings was not an easy task. Even if the 3 utmost powerful beings were to activate the 3 winding rivers, it would still require an extremely long process. The chaotic universe trembled incessantly. The boundless starry sky was collapsing. Fortunately, the chaotic universe was boundless. Even though the battle between the 10 utmost powerful beings could be called an extreme battle, it was still within an acceptable range for the entire chaotic universe. At this moment, the 10 utmost powerful beings did not notice that Yi Xian was staring fixedly at the winding rivers of time. A trace of madness flashed across his eyes. Hidden in the depths of the winding rivers of time was a pair of ancient ominous eyes. As long as he could enter the winding rivers of time, he would be able to draw out this pair of ancient ominous eyes. Yi Xian had never forgotten that when his future self had entered the winding rivers of time, the moment that pair of ancient ominous eyes opened, Yi Xian himself felt as if his soul was about to scatter. He had even heard the furious roar of his future self when the winding rivers of time were about to disappear. Presumably, his future self had fought with this pair of ancient ominous eyes. As for the outcome, no one knew. However, judging from his future self's attitude, this pair of ancient ominous eyes was absolutely terrifying. However, what left Yi Xian speechless was that the 8 utmost powers within his body were wreaking havoc. His entire being was fixed in place by the chaotic light beam. He could not break free from the shackles before him, let alone enter the winding rivers of time. Wait. He could only wait. Yi Xian forced himself to calm down. At this moment, there was nothing he could do. The only thing he could do was wait. However, Yi Xian had a feeling that the chaotic universe was vast and boundless. It contained too many secrets. Now that the 10 utmost powerful beings were fighting over him, Yi Xian believed that some unexpected variables would definitely occur. This feeling was extremely strong. Yi Xian also believed in his own feelings. When the variables arose, he would be able to regain control of his body. At that time, he would be able to risk everything and escape into the winding rivers of time. Boom! The stars exploded, and the sea of stars was annihilated. The battle between the 10 utmost powerful beings had reached a white-hot stage. Although the auras of both sides were blazing, the power they displayed was no longer as terrifying as before. This also proved that both sides had suffered great losses. Astral Origin Chessboard. Suddenly a change occurred. A hoarse voice that had experienced the vicissitudes of life came from the chaotic universe. Streaks of chaotic starlight suddenly rose from the starry sky in all directions. In an instant, they turned into a chessboard that covered the sky. The stars in the heavens were the chess pieces, and the vast sea of stars was the board. A mighty force that could overturn the chaotic universe was released to the extreme. This chessboard that covered the sky seemed to encompass the entire chaotic universe, and instantly trapped the 10 utmost powerful beings within. At the same time, 9 figures quietly appeared around Yi Xian. Streaks of ancient and mysterious starlight bloomed from their bodies. At this moment they even pointed at Yi Xian together. Chapter 13-16. There was a sudden change. Yi Xian was stunned for a moment before regaining his senses. The chaotic light on his body had already dissipated, and he was covered by 9 streaks of starlight. Chaotic Star Masters? In an instant, Yi Xian exclaimed in a low voice. He didn't even need to see who these 9 people were. Just the aura they emitted was enough to tell him who they were. The chaotic universe had 12 periods, and the current era was the 10th period. Apart from the 10 strongest of the ages, there were 9 other chaotic star masters. Although the chaotic star master's presence was extremely weak, every chaotic star master was in existence that could challenge the strongest of the ages. At this moment, they suddenly appeared beside Yi Xian. Although Yi Xian was shocked, he immediately calmed down. Go! It was unknown who spoke, but the 9 great chaos star masters attacked with a loud bang. The rays of starlight drew a star field teleportation formation that instantly covered Yi Xian. In the next moment, they were about to escape from this starry sky. How dare you! The 10 strongest instantly reacted and simultaneously let out a heaven-shaking roar. That extremely terrifying peak strength attacked the 9 great star masters with a loud rumble. There was a saying that went, when the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. The 9 chaotic star masters wanted to take advantage of the chaos to kidnap Yi Xian. This simply infuriated the 10 strongest of the ages. Change! The 9 chaotic star masters slashed out with their palms and fingers, and the chaotic starry sky was thrown into chaos. The universe runes wreaked havoc and barely blocked the attack of the 10 strongest of the ages. Instantly, they disappeared from the 10 strongest of the ages. Rumble! Passing through the universe and breaking through the barriers of space, the chaotic star masters used the universe as their array. The array technique they displayed was simply earth-shattering. Even the strongest of the ages would have to be wary of it. Yi Xian felt as if his entire body was about to fall apart. His entire body was shuttling through the void, and the 9 chaotic star masters were escorting him as they frantically fled. The chaos was the disk, and everything was the child. The 9 chaotic star masters took the universe as their chest, and controlled the stars as the eye of the array. When the 9 of them attacked together, the power they displayed was simply terrifying to the extreme. Want to leave? Rumble! The 10 most powerful beings were definitely not to be trifled with. How could they allow the 9 great astral masters to kidnap Yi Xian? At this moment, all of them unleashed their most powerful techniques and chased after the 9 great astral masters. Brother Heartgrave, I'm counting on you. Suddenly a star master roared. Another gray-haired old man's figure paused, and chaotic starlight flickered around his body. He pointed at the primal chaos, and in an instant, he drew a blueprint of the firmament. With a rumble, he slapped it towards the 10 strongest behind him. Heaven and earth reversal. The old man roared in a low voice, and a peerless sealing formation was launched with a loud rumble. Then, in an instant, he and the 8 great star masters once again took Yi Xian and fled madly. Undying Heaven Blade! The Undying Heaven Lord roared in anger. He ruthlessly slashed out with his saber. That saber light of nirvanic annihilation, that could pierce through the universe, tore this supreme grand formation into pieces. The 10 supreme experts once again chased after the 9 great star masters. Chaos. The master of primal chaos was awe-inspiring. The river of primal chaos rumbled and surged, instantly blocking the path of the 9 celestial masters and Yi Xian. River of primal chaos. The star masters of primal chaos were indeed terrifying. In the face of the river of primal chaos, the 9 celestial masters attacked with a loud rumble, and the river of primal chaos actually reversed. This method simply shocked Yi Xian to the extreme. Destiny. The master of destiny spoke emotionlessly. The river of destiny rumbled and surged like a tornado, wanting to swallow all 9 celestial masters. 9 stars confusion. The 9 celestial masters attacked again, and mysterious starlight bloomed from each of them. It was as if 9 ancient stars were shining brightly. The river of destiny actually strangely calmed down. The star masters of primal chaos had the universe hidden in their chest. Every move they made was filled with mysterious power. They could borrow the power of the primal chaos universe. And they also had the great ability of Tong Tian to move the earth. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to challenge the strongest of all time. Rumble. The 9 celestial masters attacked again and again, bringing Yi Xian across countless galaxies. Their speed was simply unimaginable, and they left the 10 supreme experts in the dust. We can't let them escape. The sky-devouring demon lord roared with hatred. Then, he suddenly looked at the other 9 supreme experts and said, "The 9 celestial masters are erudite and knowledgeable. It's too troublesome to deal with them together. Only the river of time can stop them. Seal off space-time and stop them." The master of primal chaos looked at the master of space-time. At this moment, only the master of space-time had this ability. After all, only the Tao of space-time could stop the 9 celestial masters from escaping. A hint of hesitation flashed across the master of spacetime's eyes. Although the 9 celestial masters had kidnapped Yi Xian, the master of spacetime didn't know if this was a good or bad thing. This also made him unsure if he should stop them. Spacetime, you should know the methods of the star masters of primal chaos. If you let them take Yi Xian away, there's no telling what will happen. If you hesitate for a moment longer, I'm afraid they'll really go far away. The master of destiny frowned slightly. Time. The master of spacetime's gaze hardened as he finally made a decision. The river of time surged, and the space-time of this starry universe started to reverse. The 9 celestial masters, who had already crossed several galaxies, were now strangely retreating. One had to admit that the river of time was indeed terrifying. Even though the 9 celestial masters were erudite and knowledgeable, and their methods were even more powerful than Tongtian's, they still couldn't reverse the flow of time. It wasn't that the 9 celestial masters weren't strong. The 9 celestial masters could even resist the 2 great rivers of primal chaos and destiny. However, the river of time was extremely effective against them. As the saying went, there was always a counter to something else. When the river of time came, the 9 celestial masters used all their methods, but they could only temporarily slow down the speed of the reversal. They were still retreating. On the other hand, the 10 supreme experts attacked and surrounded the 9 celestial masters, and Yi Xian in an instant. Heartgrave, you've crossed the line, the master of primal chaos said in a low voice. An extremely terrifying chaotic aura had already locked onto the 9 celestial masters. No matter how powerful they were, they couldn't escape his senses. It wasn't just the master of primal chaos. The other 9 supreme experts had also locked their auras on the 9 celestial masters. Even if they could still escape, it would be enough to find them. In the primal chaos heaven and earth, everything is natural. Our chaos star masters have always minded our own business. Yi Xian was originally a chaos star master of the 10th Yuanhui era, and he is of the same lineage as us. Now that all of you are making things difficult for him for your own selfish desires, how can we, the Chaos Star Masters, sit idly by. Heartgrave stepped forward. He had a head of gray hair, and he wore a blue robe. Starlight surged around him. He was a Chaos Star Master from the same era as the Master of Primal Chaos, and also the first Chaos Star Master in the Primal Chaos universe. Cut the crap and leave them behind. Otherwise, I'll start a massacre today, and use the 9 of you as a sacrifice to my Undying Heaven Blade. The Undying Heaven Lord said coldly, and pointed his Undying Heaven Blade at the 9 Celestial Masters. A killing intent that could overturn the world spread out. He didn't put the 9 Celestial Masters in his eyes at all. The Undying Heaven Lord slashed out with his saber, and slashed towards the 9 Celestial Masters. The other utmost powerful beings made their moves at the same time, wanting to suppress the 9 Celestial Masters in the shortest amount of time possible. 9 stars as one, heaven extinction as one. All 9 of them transformed into dazzling starlight, their auras linking together to form the image of a miniature chaos verse, which crashed down on the 10 paragons with a rumble. Boom! The battle between the 10 paragons and the 9 Celestial Masters took place. When the two sides clashed, something terrifying happened. Chi, the power of the chaotic star source, and the strength of the 10 paragons exploded completely. A beam of light pierced through the chaos, blinding everyone. Roars of rage could be heard. Bang! 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 The boundless starry skies of the universe were crumbling, and terrifying cosmic black holes appeared one after another. Everything was drowned in them, and there was even fresh blood spurting out from the 10 strongest and 9 great astral masters. It was impossible to tell who was injured and who had the upper hand. At this moment, Yi Xian stood alone, watching the battle with a gloomy look in his eyes. He suddenly raised his head and looked at the mysterious river of time with a sinister look in his eyes. Opportunity. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. Whether the 9 Celestial Masters or the 10 Paragons won, he would never allow himself to be manipulated by these people. Yi Xian took a step forward. While the two sides were engaged in a bitter battle, he rushed towards the river of time at an unimaginable speed. Yi Xian, what are you doing? Yi Xian's movement immediately caused the space-time master to exclaim in shock. He had been paying attention to Yi Xian. Now that Yi Xian was rushing towards the river of time, he could vaguely guess what Yi Xian was thinking. Quick, stop him. He's going to lure out the terrifying creature from the river of time. The Destiny Master roared furiously, as if he had also guessed what Yi Xian was going to do. Yi Xian, stop right now. Star Master Barry Hart's expression changed drastically. He shouted anxiously at Yi Xian. As the first chaotic Star Master since the birth of the chaotic universe, he naturally knew many secrets that others did not. Unfortunately, no matter how anxious everyone was, the power of the two sides completely intertwined. It was too late to stop Yi Xian from entering the river of time. Yi Xian had been waiting for this opportunity the entire time. How could he give up halfway? Chi! A wave of time surged, and Yi Xian finally entered the river of time. In the next moment, both sides stopped fighting, but they were powerless to stop Yi Xian from entering the river of time. Space-time, stop him right now. The Primal Chaos Master's voice was filled with fury. He knew very well what was hidden within the river of time. If that terrifying creature truly came into being, it would definitely bring a great calamity to the chaotic universe. Right now, only the Space-Time Master could control the river of time, and perhaps prevent this from happening. It's too late. The Space-Time Master was extremely bitter. He gazed at the river of time and murmured, "The river of time records the past, present, and future. Any creature that enters it will never be able to leave. Even if I can control the river of time, if he's trapped within, he'll only end up as a bubble of time. Even if I act now, it's already too late. Look." Suddenly, the Lord of Extreme Fiend roared furiously. He pointed at the surging river of time, causing the other sovereigns and the 9 Star Masters to all look towards the river of time. But in the next moment, extreme fear appeared on everyone's faces. An extremely stifling atmosphere quietly grew. Whoosh! What was the meaning of time? The river of time existed in the past, present, and future. This was the space-time order of the chaotic universe. As Yi Xian walked through the river of time, not only did he have to suffer from the terrifying attacks of the three spacetimes, but he also faced the risk of dying at any time. To put it bluntly, even sovereigns of all time might not be able to walk out alive after entering the river of time. If there was anyone who could truly walk through the river of time, it would only be the future body and the ominous eyes of eternity hidden within the river of time. At this moment, ignoring whether or not Yi Xian could draw out the ominous eyes of eternity, the fact that he was walking against the current of the river of time placed him in a life and death crisis. He could turn into a bubble of time at any moment, truly no longer existing in this world. Chapter 13:18. Yi Xian felt like he didn't exist. He didn't know who he was, nor did he know the meaning of his existence. Whoosh whoosh the waves of time surged. Yi Xian walked aimlessly in the waves of time. He was almost lost in the river of time. Time was like a blade that obliterated everything. In the past, present, and future, all existences had become illusory. This inexplicable order of time and space was about to obliterate Yi Xian in the river of time. Who was I? Who am I now? Who am I in the future? Observe the me of the past, recite the me of the present, and hope for the me of the future. In the river of time, Yi Xian found it difficult to move. His thoughts were in chaos, and his footsteps had already started to slow down. The tide of time crashed down on him, smashing his entire body into the river of time. No! Outside, an ear-piercing cry of sorrow was heard. The extreme Love King's face was deathly pale. His lips trembled uncontrollably. 9-colored godly light burst forth. His entire body rushed towards the river of time. Extreme Love, what are you doing? The Extreme Devil Master immediately blocked the Extreme Love Master's path. His expression was extremely complicated, and he looked at the Extreme Love Master with a trace of helplessness. He can't die. The Extreme Love Master's beautiful face twisted. Her eyes reddened as she looked at the Extreme Devil Master. The river of time has space-time order. Even if you enter, you can't save him. The Extreme Devil Master roared coldly, reminding the Extreme Love Master. But, at this moment the Extreme Love Master's aura was chaotic. She stared blankly at the river of time, and a trace of undetectable sorrow flashed through her eyes. He's not that person. Suddenly, the Extreme Devil Master transmitted secretly. It was like a clap of thunder in the Extreme Love Master's ears, as if he was reminding her of a fact she had to face. But the Extreme Love Master lowered his head, and he was completely speechless. How is this possible? Suddenly, the Undying Heaven Lord's shocked voice rang out. This also made the 10 sovereigns and the 9-star masters look at the river of time. In the next moment, several cries of surprise rang out. The river of time. Whoosh whoosh, great waves surged and time disappeared. As the waves rose and fell, Yi Xian's figure slowly rose from the bottom of the river. Gray light appeared around him. He had pushed heaven's burial technique to the extreme. 3,000 flourishing moments, 10,000 years is like a dream. Looking back on the boundless world, time is endless. At this moment, Yi Xian's lips slightly moved as he spat out scriptures one after another. At this moment, he was sublimated to the extreme, protecting his heart and steadying his will as he continued to move forward against the river of time. What a strong will! The masters of masters is masters is. This child really does have a great secret. The master of primal chaos sighed. Yi Xian was able to stay true to his heart in the river of time, and not be turned into bubbles by the order of time. This already shocked him greatly. The river of time, the order of time, was a line of time. From the birth of the primal chaos to its destruction, this line of time continued to advance. At this moment, Yi Xian was able to stay true to his heart, and not be affected by the disorder of time and space. No matter how weak his cultivation was, just this willpower and temperament alone meant that his future achievements were limitless. It really is you. Quietly, a murmur came from the mouth of the Extreme Love Lord. She silently watched Yi Xian walk through the river of time with a complicated expression in her eyes. Time and space, close the river of time. The master of primal chaos said in a low voice. No, if we close the river of time, he will be trapped in it forever. The undying Heaven Lord was the first to disagree, and directly refuted him. If Yi Xian were to fall in the river of time, then everything he'd done would be for naught. He can't die. The heaven-devouring demon lord took a step forward, his demonic light rumbling as his voice was cold and domineering. What do you know? There is a forbidden item in the river of time. If this child draws it out, it will bring a great calamity to the chaos verse. The Master of Destiny rebuked coldly. What a joke! What is a forbidden item? The Lord of Destruction said fiercely. All of us supreme experts are here. This is the greatest forbidden item in the chaos verse. What's more, the 9 celestial masters are here. They represent the peak of the chaos verse. Even if there is a forbidden item in the river of time, if he dares to come out, we can just destroy it. We supreme experts have been invincible throughout the ages. Why would we fear a mere forbidden item? The undying Heaven Lord said coldly. At this moment, the master of spacetime was hesitant. If he closed the river of time, Yi Xian would definitely die. But if he didn't, it was very likely that he would draw out that pair of ominous eyes. The mysteries of the chaos verse are shocking changes. It seems that it's time to take a gamble, the master of spacetime murmured. The Lord of Time and Space muttered to himself before calming down. He didn't close the river of time, as he calmly gazed at Yi Xian. At this moment, the 10 great experts and the 9 great star masters all tacitly agreed not to speak. Everyone's gazes were directed towards Yi Xian. Even if Yi Xian really did draw out the so-called taboo item, they would still be instantly suppressed on the spot. Whoosh! The river of time surged violently. Yi Xian's footsteps became increasingly steady. His eyes were extremely calm. He stepped on the waves and moved against the current, heading towards the deepest part of the river of time. Just like his future self, he also walked along the river of time. Buzz! Finally, Yi Xian arrived at the end of the river of time. The waves under his feet strangely calmed down, like a pool of stagnant water without any ripples. However, a heart-palpitating atmosphere grew invisibly, causing Yi Xian's expression to darken. This was the place. Yi Xian's body and mind trembled slightly. He didn't need to do any probing. He could sense that there was a forbidden existence in this calm pool of water, that even the supreme experts of ancient times were very afraid of. Rumble! In the next moment, a divine light erupted from Yi Xian's body. The dusky light was sublimated to the extreme. He no longer hesitated, and threw a punch at the stagnant water in front of him. That resplendent fist light seemed to illuminate the entire river of time. Boom! Huge waves surged and time filled the air. Yi Xian's punch completely broke the tranquility of this place. The huge wave drowned Yi Xian's body, causing his body to become illusory. He almost turned into a bubble and disappeared. Fortunately, Yi Xian's heart was like a boulder that never moved. His body rapidly stagnated, but he was panting heavily. Clearly, he wasn't having a good time. Pop, pop, pop. Suddenly, bubbles appeared on the surface of the water. A blurry shadow rose from the bottom of the water. It was also at this moment that the vast river of time suddenly stagnated. Even the surging river began to slow down. Chapter 13:19. At this moment, the river of time became extremely slow. It directly affected the chaotic universe outside. Time seemed to have slowed down by 10 times. Even the 10 strongest experts and 9 great star masters were affected. How is this possible? The undying Heaven Lord blurted out in shock. His face was filled with fear, as an extremely bad premonition appeared in his heart. It wasn't just the undying Heaven Lord. All of the other utmost powerful beings, and the 9 great star masters had grim expressions on their faces right now. Even though the taboo object hidden in the long river of time had yet to appear, this change was already way too shocking. Hua, hua, hua! A pair of scarlet eyes slowly opened in the river of time. This pair of ferocious eyes seemed to be able to pierce through the chaotic universe. Its gaze slowly focused on Yi Xian. Roar! The roar of an ancient beast shook the world. This roar seemed to want to devour the universe. Even the river of time was trembling violently. A terrifying shadow was slowly rising from the bottom of the water. "It's out," Yi Xian whispered in shock. He would never forget this pair of ancient ferocious eyes. Back then, he vaguely saw this pair of eyes. Today they appeared again. This simply made Yi Xian's body and mind tremble. What kind of eyes were these? Ferocious, perverse, tyrannical, bloody. And there was also a trace of unwillingness and sorrow that was difficult to detect. At this moment, Yi Xian was fixed in place. He could not even move a finger. This was because he was being stared at by this pair of ancient ferocious eyes. Just the gaze of the other party was enough to make him unable to control his body. Hua! Huge waves surged. Time was in chaos. A dark and blurry figure finally rose from the bottom of the water. This figure was so blurry that no one could tell what kind of creature it was. However, within this dark figure, a pair of scarlet eyes opened and closed slightly. An ancient and tyrannical aura spread out. It made people feel as if their souls were about to be crushed by it. "It's you." Like metal rubbing against each other, like a steel blade scraping against one's bones. This dark figure seemed to have not spoken for a very long time. His voice was ear-piercing and unpleasant. However, it was also filled with extremely negative emotions. It made people feel as if their souls were about to explode. Thump, thump, thump. Time trembled and waves rumbled as the black figure walked step by step towards Yi Xian. Every step it took seemed to shake the entire chaos verse, as it slowly revealed its terrifying and mysterious power. You came back again. He walked up to Yi Xian and tilted his head to look at Yi Xian. Their faces were almost touching. At this moment, Yi Xian could neither move nor speak. He could only see a pair of scarlet eyes staring at him. He also saw the pair of ancient, ominous eyes most directly. The shock he felt in his heart was unimaginable. This pair of eyes seemed familiar. Even Yi Xian's soul was throbbing. It was not that Yi Xian was afraid, but a kind of indescribable fear and excitement. It was as if he had discovered a new continent. No, you're not. No, you are. But, why did you come back? Yi Xian did not know what the ancient shadow was saying. His voice was hoarse and unpleasant to the ears. It was filled with an indescribable meaning. Kill you. Kill. Suddenly, the ancient shadow raised his hand slowly. The entire river of time moved along with him. That horrifying aura of time covered the entire world, as it came crashing down on Yi Xian. My life is over. At this moment, Yi Xian screamed out in his heart. A look of despair flashed through his eyes. He knew that if this strike of the other party landed, he would definitely die. No! Suddenly, the voice of the extreme emotion master rang out from the outside world. The time master struck out, wanting to activate the river of time to suppress the ancient shadow. But it was too late. The ancient shadow had already slapped down on Yi Xian. There was no one who could save Yi Xian now. In the next moment, just as Yi Xian was in despair, the strike did not land on him. Instead, it dissipated silently. No, you can't die. There's going to be a calamity, a calamity. The ancient shadow murmured as he looked at Yi Xian in a daze. He then shook his head slowly. It was as though all the killing intent he had towards Yi Xian had dissipated entirely at this moment. You, who are you? All of a sudden, Yi Xian realized that he could control his body again. He looked at the ancient shadow and asked the question that was bothering him the most. Who am I? The ancient shadow's eyes were bloodshot. At this moment, they shone intensely, as though he was recalling his identity. Gradually he went silent. I am invincible throughout the ages. I am unparalleled in the chaos. But in the end, I can only fall into this state. When the chaos descends into chaos, and the heavens and earth change, I will be able to transcend. Roar! The ancient shadow reared his head and roared out like a wild beast. He seemed to have gone insane, as though he had recalled something that had enraged him. In the outside world, the 10 sovereigns and the 9 astral masters stared in shock at the ancient shadow in the river of time. Grave expressions on their faces. Strong. Very strong. Extremely strong. Although the ancient shadow didn't have the aura of a sovereign, they could sense that he was extremely powerful. A dark cloud loomed over their hearts. and even their hearts of invincibility began to waver. You've awakened me from my slumber. Everything begins today. In the long river of time, the eyes of the eternal shadow were blood-red. He loudly stepped past Yi Xian, and his ancient eyes focused on the 10 strongest bodies in the outside world. A trace of greed flashed through his eyes. All of you deserve to die. Roar. Splash. 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 The river of time trembled violently, its waves sweeping through the starry skies. The ancient shadow strode forward, clearly intending to emerge from the river of time. His aura of invincibility and ferocity spread throughout the chaos-verse. It was unknown whether it was intentional or unintentional, but as the ancient shadow moved forward, Yi Xian's entire body moved with him. He instantly pushed Yi Xian out of the river of time and staggered in the vast starry sky. Stop him! Don't let him come out! The Lord of Primal Chaos roared, releasing his primal chaos aura to the extreme. Even the river of chaos above his head surged violently, proving just how heavy the Lord of Primal Chaos was right now. Whether it was the 10 sovereigns or the 9 astral masters, none of them had the time to pay attention to Yi Xian, because the ancient shadow's aura had already locked onto them all. Time. The space-time lord was the first to act. He used a space-time divine art to close off the river of time, but something bizarre and terrifying happened. Splash! 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 The river of time didn't react in the slightest, and the space-time lord couldn't control it at all. Meanwhile, the ancient shadow strode towards the outside world, the river of time pushing him forward, as if he were the true master of the river of time. Time! Roar! The ancient shadow roared furiously, his voice like a ferocious beast's, but the river of time moved according to his will, instantly pushing him out of the river of time. His entire body appeared in the outside world. Chapter 1320. How can this be? The space-time lord was stunned. He couldn't believe that the other party could control the river of time, and that the other party was stronger than him. Even the other 9 paragons and the 9 astral masters were shocked speechless, let alone the space-time lord. It was common knowledge that the space-time lord could control the river of time, and that he was the only one in the chaos-verse who could do so. But now, this person who had walked out of the river of time could also control it. Silence, silence, a deathly silence. A stifling atmosphere that seemed to have been suppressed for eternity silently grew, and the entire cosmos became extremely silent. I'll kill you. Boom. The undying heaven lord held his blade horizontally in the sky, and his nirvanic light shook the entire cosmos. He was the paragon of eternity, and he believed himself to be invincible in the chaos-verse. Even though this aeon shadow gave him a great deal of pressure, it couldn't shake his invincible heart. I am the paragon, and I can suppress a region. Kill. Domineering and arrogant, the undying heaven lord raised his blade and charged at the aeon shadow. His nirvanic divine might bloomed to the extreme. I am the eternal of eternity. I am the undying primordial chaos. Who dares to say they are undefeated? Who is the paragon? Roar. The aeon shadow roared like a ferocious beast. The light around him was obscure and gave off a feeling of death, but the primordial might he erupted with was unimaginably terrifying. Clang. Death light flashed in the air. The eyes of eternal shadow flashed with red light. He casually blasted a palm strike towards the undying heaven lord. The undying heavenly saber was directly sent flying, emitting a thunderous boom that shook the universe. Boom. In the next moment, something even more terrifying happened. The undying heaven lord, who was known to be undying and indestructible, was sent flying by the aeon shadow. His undying war body, which he was extremely proud of, actually showed cracks. Sizzle. A stream of blood flowed from the corner of the undying heaven lord's mouth. His body, which had been sent flying, instantly froze, but his expression was extremely gloomy. Who are you? The undying heaven lord wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth and roared at the ancient shadow ferociously. That attack had actually injured him. His opponent's strength was something he had never seen before. It wasn't one of the 12 paragons, nor was it a power that should have existed in the chaos-verse. It was a power filled with the aura of death and desolation, as if any power would be annihilated in the face of the shadow of eternity. The undying Heaven Lord was absolutely certain that a taboo character who could injure a primordial expert must have a great background. This made him roar furiously, wanting to know the identity of the other party. What is the strongest? Ha ha ha. The Prime of Eons is nothing more than a joke. That's the biggest joke of the Chaos verse. Wang Guyin's voice was no longer as stiff as before. It had gradually returned to normal, but he was still laughing mockingly. His laughter was filled with an indescribable emotion, faintly giving off a feeling of sadness. Kill you! The undying Heaven Lord roared in rage. The undying Heaven Saber appeared in his hand, once more as he unleashed his full might. The undying Heaven Saber in his hand slashed out a saber beam of nirvanic destruction. He was truly enraged now. Dang! 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 The shadow of eternity didn't have a divine weapon, but when he waved his arm, he continuously shattered the saber beams of the undying Heaven Lord. His divine ability didn't appear, but it gave off a feeling of the great Tao. Terrifying, extremely terrifying. Just the technique of the shadow of eternity had already surpassed the strongest of all. Even though it didn't contain the laws of primal chaos, the deathly chi was the nemesis of the strongest of all. Bang! The undying Heaven Lord was sent flying again. Facing this taboo character who walked out from the river of time, he clearly wasn't a match for the shadow of eternity. Humiliation, a great humiliation. The undying Heaven Lord had never been defeated before, nor did he know what defeat was. But today, he had truly tasted the taste of defeat. Facing this monster who had walked out of the river of time, he actually began to feel powerless. Boom! Finally, the Lord of Primal Chaos took a step forward. He was finally going to personally take action, because he had a faint guess of the other party's identity. If his guess was correct, let alone the undying Heaven Lord, he himself might not be a match for this monster. Primal Chaos? The shadow of eternity stared at the Lord of Primal Chaos with a pair of fierce eyes. His aura stagnated slightly before calming down again. You shouldn't have appeared. The Lord of Primal Chaos said quietly. You know who I am? The shadow of eternity asked. So what if I know? So what if I don't? You should have sunk into the river of time forever. Otherwise, even if we don't kill you, you will be annihilated in the Primal Chaos universe. The Lord of Primal Chaos berated loudly. Annihilated? Ha ha ha. The Lord of Primal Chaos seemed to have touched the shadow of eternity's sore spot. A mocking laughter came from his mouth, causing the entire universe to rumble. Primal Chaos reincarnation, heaven and earth will change. You are all chess pieces. How dare you mock me? A person who defies the heavens and fights for his life. The shadow of eternity roared. You are not a human, and your soul is not a soul. You are just a living dead, and you have even become a taboo of the Primal Chaos universe. Why are you so obsessed with the distant past and unwilling to let go? The Lord of Primal Chaos advised earnestly. What a joke. What qualifications do you have to judge me? Die! Roar! The bestial roar shook the heavens, and everything withered. The shadow of eternity suddenly struck out a palm at the Lord of Primal Chaos. The terrifying death ray turned everything into smoke, and with a supreme power that could destroy the galaxy, it pressed down on the Lord of Primal Chaos. Facing this attack of the shadow of eternity, the Lord of Primal Chaos did not dare to be careless. This was because he had already guessed the identity of the other party. Primal Chaos. Rumble. The river of Primal Chaos was surging, and the power of Primal Chaos was surging. The Lord of Primal Chaos also struck out with his palm. Even if the other party had an extremely great background, the Lord of Primal Chaos believed that he could still block the other party. Bang! This strike shattered the starry sky, turned the vast ocean into dust, and shattered this part of the universe. The dazzling light of Primal Chaos and the death ray intertwined together, making it impossible for anyone to open their eyes. Boom! When the dazzling light dissipated, an extremely terrifying thing happened. The Lord of Primal Chaos, who was known as the most powerful person in the Primal Chaos universe, had blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. His entire body was blasted tens of thousands of feet away, and the river of primal chaos above his head showed signs of collapsing. What kind of monster is he? When this scene appeared in front of everyone's eyes, whether it was the 9 paragons or the 9 star masters, their expressions became extremely grim. None of the 10 paragons dared to claim to be number 1, and none of them would submit to another. However, the fact that the Lord of Primal Chaos was known as the most powerful person in the Primal Chaos universe was something that they could barely acknowledge. And yet, even someone as powerful as the Lord of Primal Chaos was not a match for the Shadow of Eternity. This was simply shocking to the extreme. Chapter 13:21. Everyone, let's suppress him in the river of time, so that he will never be able to take half a step out. While the crowd was still in shock, the Master of Fate took a step forward. His fate energy rumbled as a merciless fate energy surged out from him. Suppress. Rumble. The Master of Destiny was the most merciless, but he was also the calmest. When he attacked, the entire chaos-verse distorted, and the river of time moved with him. Spacetime. In the next moment, the Master of Spacetime also used the art of time. Without wasting any time, he attacked Aeon Shadow. The other sovereigns followed suit, and even the 9 Star Masters attacked. Starsource Heaven and Earth, Qiankuan reverse. The 9 Star Masters were drawing a grand formation in the middle of the starry cosmos, drawing upon the endless starlight of the chaos verse, and unleashing a terrifying power that reached the pinnacle of power. The 10 sovereigns attacked as well. All sorts of powerful techniques were sent towards Aeon Shadow. Today, they must suppress this monster, who had walked out of the river of time. Eternity, the cycle of time. You all deserve to die. Facing the 10 sovereigns and 9 star masters, Aeon Shadow roared. His scarlet eyes flashed fiercely, and an aura of death bloomed from him. Roar! Aeon Shadow's hands formed a circle, and 12 vortexes of death energy appeared before him. The terrifying sound of rotation echoed throughout the chaos verse, and the boundless aura of death erupted. All things reincarnate, chaos extermination. Aeon Shadow roared madly. This great technique that surpassed the power of the 10 sovereigns was unleashed, and it collided with the power of the 10 sovereigns and 9 star masters. Suppress! The 10 sovereigns roared, and the 9 star masters spoke. They were the strongest people in the chaos verse, and the power they unleashed when they joined forces was simply unimaginable. Sizzle! Rumble! The 12 vortexes that Aeon Shadow had unleashed were rapidly melting away. The power unleashed by the 10 paragons and the 9 astral masters was simply too terrifying. That power that could pierce through the chaos verse was capable of crushing everything. Even Aeon Shadow was slowly being pushed back. It had to be said that the strongest of the Aeon continent was the strongest of the Aeon continent. Especially when the 10 strongest of the Aeon continent were working together with the help of the 9 great star masters. Even though Wang Guiying was a taboo character, he couldn't resist such overwhelming power. Roar! Wang Guiying roared furiously. Even though he was strong enough to surpass the strongest of the ancient times, he was still helpless against the 10 strongest of the ancient times and the 9 great star masters. The 9 star masters were no mere ants. They represented the very apex of the chaos verse, and there was no way anyone could stand up to them. Sizzle! Aeon Shadow was doing his best to resist, but he was also being pushed back. He pushed his hands forward to block the powerful halo, and the death aura around him was melting away inch by inch. His true body was faintly revealed. Suppression. This was the suppression of the strongest of the Aeon continent and the Chaos Star Masters. It instantly put Aeon Shadow at a disadvantage, and it wouldn't take long for them to suppress him and send him back into the river of time. Even though the Primal Chaos Master and the others had gained a great advantage, each of them was extremely heavy. Their opponent alone was able to withstand the suppression of 19 of them. Such terrifying power alone was probably something that had never appeared in the Chaos verse before. At this moment, Yi Xian stared gloomily from afar. His eyes flickered. and a wisp of space-time energy rose around him. He already had thoughts of escaping. This was the opportunity Yi Xian wanted. At this moment, Aeon Shadow was locked in a stalemate with the 10 paragons and the 9 astral masters. They had no time to pay attention to him. If he didn't leave now, when would he leave? Yi Xian didn't care what terrifying things would happen if this forbidden character was lured out. He just wanted to leave this battlefield as soon as possible, because this wasn't something he could participate in at all. Qi. Using space-time energy, Yi Xian instantly tore apart the space in front of him and turned into a streak of light that shot into the distance. You can't leave. Suddenly, when Yi Xian fled, the Extreme Love Master, who had been paying attention to him, scolded. She actually left the battlefield and instantly chased after Yi Xian. Are you crazy? The Undying Heaven Lord roared in anger. He wanted nothing more than to slap the Extreme Emotion Master to death. When the Extreme Emotion Master left, the advantage that they had just shown instantly collapsed. The 9 paragons and the 9 astral masters were forced to retreat. On the other hand, Aeon Shadow roared in anger, and the withered light suddenly brightened. Although losing an Aeon Elite didn't seem like much, it gave Aeon Shadow an opportunity to launch a counterattack. Kill! 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 Aeon Shadow roared in the chaos like a ferocious beast. The death light that surpassed the paragons pressed down on the 9 paragons and the others. They were instantly forced to retreat, and the endless starry sky collapsed. Extreme emotion, you bitch! The Undying Heaven Lord repeatedly slashed out Nirvana Saber light towards the Eternal Shadow, as he continuously roared in extreme anger. If it wasn't for the Extreme Love Lord chasing after Yi Xian, how could he have allowed the Eternal Shadow to reverse the situation? Die, all of you! Aeon Shadow, a forbidden character, was too terrifying. He was fighting the 9 paragons and the 9 astral masters alone. He was in a frenzied state of slaughter. On the other side, Qi. Yi Xian was frantically escaping in the chaotic starry sky. However, his face was twisted and ferocious. Pain flashed in his eyes from time to time, but he forced himself to endure it. He didn't scream because of the pain that came from his body. The paragons had planted the paragon seed in his body. This was a great hidden danger, but the primal chaos master suppressed it. At this moment, there were faint signs of it erupting again. However, Yi Xian didn't have the time to care about this hidden danger. He had to escape from this star field in the shortest time possible. He didn't want to become the plaything of the paragons, or even be targeted by the monsters that walked out from the long river of time. Freeze! Suddenly, just as Yi Xian was frantically escaping, he heard a delicate shout from all directions in the starry sky. Yi Xian felt his body suddenly stiffen. He was actually fixed in the starry sky. Wang! Heaven and earth were shifted, and the myriad of laws were unrestrained. A slender figure blocked Yi Xian's path. A face that could turn all living things upside down appeared in front of him. It's over. When he saw the face in front of him, Yi Xian was shocked. A look of helplessness appeared in his eyes. He never thought that he still couldn't escape the pursuit of these paragons. Where do you think you're going? It had to be said that the Extreme Love Master's face was too beautiful. She was even more beautiful than the moon fairy of the past. In particular, her powerful aura added an indescribable charm to her. If this were any other time, Yi Xian wouldn't know who she was. When he saw the Extreme Love Master, he would only sigh that there was a woman who surpassed the moon fairy. But now, Yi Xian knew who the person in front of him was. He also knew what kind of terrifying cultivation and identity the other party had under his appearance that could overturn all living things. To put it bluntly, this woman in front of him could take his life with a single glance. How could Yi Xian be in the mood to indulge in her beauty? What do you want? Since he couldn't escape, Yi Xian calmed down. He frowned at the Extreme Love Master, and an extremely heavy look flashed through his eyes. Looking at Yi Xian's fearful face, a touch of bitterness flashed through the Extreme Love Master's eyes. Her eyes seemed to be in a trance. It was as if she was remembering a long, dusty past. Back in the day, before I became a cultivator, someone once told me something. Extreme love to people, forget love to the heavens. It was because of this person that I was able to create the extreme love power and truly become the strongest paragons of all time. The extreme love master murmured. The bitterness in her eyes became even more intense. She finally woke up from her thoughts, and her beautiful eyes that were like stars focused on Yi Xian. You really don't remember me? The extreme love master whispered in a trembling voice. If one looked closely, they would see that the extreme love master's delicate hands were clenched. It proved just how disturbed her heart was right now. Chapter 1322. For a moment it felt like déjà vu. Yi Xian suddenly had an illusion. The king of extreme love in front of him seemed familiar. It was an inexplicable feeling, but it really existed in Yi Xian's heart. Yi Xian suddenly woke up. He felt a chill run down his spine, because the king of extreme love was looking at him with eyes full of gentleness. He'd seen that look on the Empyrean fairy and the moon fairy before. No way. Yi Xian's heart shook. He wasn't a young boy, and he knew how to love. Yi Xian suddenly guessed something that shocked him to the core. Could it be that the future self had met the king of extreme love, and something indescribable had happened between them? What a sin! Thinking of this, drops of cold sweat flowed out from Yi Xian's forehead. He was even more certain of his guess. If the future self really had a past that he didn't know about with the extreme love lord, then this kind of situation would be extremely troublesome for him. What do you want to do? Yi Xian asked cautiously. His voice was shaking, and he was a little nervous. Love was the word that killed people the most. Yi Xian was a person who abandoned love. If the king of extreme love really had a relationship with the future self, the king of extreme love would never let him go. It was said that if you did something wrong, you had to pay for it yourself. Although Yi Xian didn't know about the relationship between the future self and the king of extreme love, the key was that the future self was him. There was no way he could avoid this. I want you to marry me. The king of extreme love was almost enunciating each word slowly. When the words fell into Yi Xian's ears, it wasn't easy for him to hear them. He was so shocked that he stumbled back. What did you say? Yi Xian trembled as he spoke. He looked at the king of extreme love with an indescribable expression. He was in a state of shock. Who was the king of extreme love? The strongest of all time. A woman who could be said to be the strongest of all time. A supreme expert who was revered by all living beings in the chaos. But what did Yi Xian hear now? The extreme love master actually wanted him to marry her as his wife. This was simply a huge joke, causing Yi Xian to be in a mess on the spot. Right now, Yi Xian had a feeling that he was like a lamb, and in front of him stood a fierce tiger. This fierce tiger told the lamb that he wanted to be his wife. This kind of inconceivable thing caused Yi Xian to be speechless to the extreme. Are you kidding me? How is that possible? Yi Xian instantly woke up from his stupor and flatly refuted such an absurd matter. Not to mention that he didn't want to marry the Lord of Extreme Love as his wife. Even if he did, the Lord of Extreme Love was the strongest since the ancient times. Placing him by his side was like a ticking time bomb that could shatter his bones at any time. Back then, on the day you left, I told you that I would wait for your return. When you return, I, Yi Qingmei, will definitely marry you. This is my vow to you, and it is also my lifelong promise. The extreme love master bit her lip. Her starry eyes were dazed. Her tone was very serious, and it was clear that she wasn't joking with Yi Xian. She walked toward Yi Xian, step by step. Wait. Yi Xian continuously retreated, his entire body tense to the extreme. What are you trying to say? Are you saying that I am not good enough for you? The extreme love master frowned. He is my future. I don't deny that. But my future is fake. He once walked in the river of time. But an illusion is an illusion. What he did? Yi Xian stuttered as he tried to explain. He was starting to speak incoherently. Are you trying to deny that you are not him? The extreme love master's voice turned cold. He is me and I am him. But my future is fake. In this life, I have nothing to do with you, so. Yi Xian hurriedly explained. Okay, if you don't admit that you are him, then I will kill you. Rumble. The extreme love power shook the sky and the earth. The nine-colored light pierced through the universe. The extreme love master's face was cold and icy. Her murderous intent locked onto Yi Xian. Wait! Yi Xian's face changed. He retreated. He didn't want to die at the hands of this crazy woman. Okay, I admit that I am him. Then what do you want? Marrying you is impossible. At this point, Yi Xian had no other choice. After all, the crazy woman standing in front of him was the strongest of all time. If she said she wanted his life, she could take it. The so-called strongest is just a passing cloud. Life and death are nothing. I have become the strongest in this chaotic universe, just to wait for you to come back. The next moment, the extreme love master's murderous intent disappeared. Her voice became soft again. A touch of tenderness rose in her eyes. She walked over to Yi Xian again and held Yi Xian's arm. At this moment, Yi Xian's back was covered in cold sweat. Even in the face of the undead god master's murderous intent, he wasn't afraid. But facing the extreme love master in front of him, Yi Xian felt bitter. He didn't know how to deal with this. Sensing Yi Xian's stiff body, the extreme love master murmured, I know you are very nervous right now, but I have been waiting for you to come back. Back then, you told me that you and I would meet again. I have waited for many Yuan Hui. Finally, in the 10th Yuan Hui, you came back. You see, this is the past between you and me. The extreme love master held Yi Xian's arm. Her 5 slender, jade-like fingers floated in the sky. The sky suddenly changed, and an ancient painting slowly unfurled. The 8th Yuan Hui, White Emperor City. Ice and snow danced in the air. Cold winds howled like the roars of wild beasts. Boundless snow blanketed the heavens and earth. It was the cold winter of the 12th lunar month, and all of the White Emperor was covered in ice and snow. The vast expanse of snow was wrapped in silver, creating an unparalleled snowy scene. Pedestrians walked in 2s and 3s. Some wore cotton-padded jackets as they braved the wind and snow. Others wore thin clothes and shivered as they hurried home. The wind and snow covered the sky, and the ground was frozen. In this sort of weather, if a mortal stayed in this sort of environment for too long, they would definitely freeze to death. Cold, cold. Under a dilapidated roof, a child of about 7 or 8 years old was shivering. Her entire body was covered in ice and snow, and she was only wearing an unlined garment with several large holes. The straw sandals that revealed her toes were already stiff, proving that she was a homeless little beggar. Cold winds howled, and snow flew everywhere. The little beggar was already on the verge of death. Her breathing began to weaken. It wouldn't be long before she froze to death in this world of ice and snow. Am I going to die? The little beggar's stubbornness for life made her muddle-headed. Her head slowly drooped, and her small body began to stiffen until no more sound came from her. Chapter 1323. Thud, thud, thud. The sky was filled with flying snow. A slender figure walked over step by step from the end of the street. With every step he took, the snow under his feet made a crunching sound. Am I early? He silently came to the little beggar's side. Looking at the frozen little beggar, he murmured in his sleep. Snow filled the sky. Snowflakes drifted down. Boundless snow whistled between heaven and earth. He picked up the little beggar and disappeared at the end of the street against the wind and snow. On the day of the snowstorm, when love is set. When Yi Xian looked at the scene in front of him in astonishment, the extreme love master's voice quietly rang out. The scroll turned again. This was a valley. Tens of thousands of flowers bloomed. Ancient trees covered the sky. A peerless girl danced among the flowers. The petals drifting in the sky moved with her. From time to time, she would let out a bell-like laugh. Sir, am I beautiful? The peerless girl looked back and smiled. Her smile could turn all living things upside down. Her eyes were like stars. Even the beautiful flowers around her were overshadowed by her beauty. It was as if she was the most beautiful thing in the world. Clang! The sound of the zither was long and drawn out. He plucked the strings and the sound spread out like water. It was as intoxicating as the celestial music of the 9 heavens. At this moment it also stopped. Eternity is like a dream. Beauty withered to bones. Your cultivation has only just begun. If you cling to your appearance, how will you achieve the Tao in the future? He spoke calmly. He plucked the strings again, but a hint of desolation faintly seeped out. It was as if there was an unspeakable sorrow in his heart. Sir, you're the most annoying. You're so stingy even when praising me. The peerless girl stuck out her tongue and made a face at him. But in the next moment, she sat down cross-legged in the air and began to cultivate seriously. Because he was her everything. She had to listen to his words. In the girl's eyes, this person was her life's faith. He had said that he wanted her to become the strongest in history. So she had always remembered. So she had always worked hard and never slacked off. In that snow-filled white emperor city, she would never forget his figure, that was like the heavens and earth. He had blocked the snow-filled sky for her, and became the only thing she could rely on in her life. Rumble, wielding his sword in the vast starry sky, capturing dragons and vanquishing demons in the waves of the vast ocean, he brought the young girl to travel the chaos, and the young girl never failed to live up to his expectations. She was growing rapidly. 100,000 years. This was the happiest 100,000 years of her life. Like a teacher, like a father, even if he wasn't a family member, he was more like a family member. Countless peerless geniuses from the Chaos sect and ancient orthodoxies had knelt at her feet. There were even peerless geniuses who were willing to give up their positions as the strongest of all time, just to win a smile from her. Unfortunately, the girl only had eyes for him, and could not accommodate anyone else. However, happiness was short-lived, and parting was also a predestined fate, because he was finally going to leave, because he did not belong to this time and space. At the peak of the sky, above all things, he stood there in a desolate manner, and no matter how strong the wind blew, he remained unmoved. However, his hair was fluttering in the wind, and his robe was also fluttering. Whoosh! Time surged and the waves surged. The legendary river of time surged over, and the power of time that filled the sky and earth howled out. No, I don't want you to leave. Her face was covered in tears, and it was a heart-wrenching scene. The young girl held his arm tightly and refused to let go, because he was everything to her, and her life would be meaningless without him. I've broken through the ancient world and reversed the river of time. I don't belong to this time and space, so we'll have to part here in the end. Why force yourself? He spoke in a desolate and low voice, and his voice was very calm. It was like he'd walked too many paths, and nothing in the world could cause ripples in his heart. The so-called parting was the same to him as well. No matter where you go, I'll definitely follow you. The young girl choked with sobs, and her face was covered in tears. She'd already grown up, and her appearance that could captivate all living beings could make countless peerless geniuses kneel at her feet. But he had never been moved by her appearance at all. Love to the extreme, and forget to love to the heavens. Once you've attained the Tao, we'll meet again in the future. He smiled as he spoke, and he gently stroked the young girl's hair, and helped her wipe away the tears on her face. After that, he suddenly turned around, and walked towards the river of time step by step. I don't want you to leave. The young girl held his arm tightly, but a force pushed her away. His figure gradually disappeared into the distance, and he'd already entered the river of time. Sob, sob. The young girl cried out in grief, and the tears in her eyes kept falling. She reached out, wanting to grab him, but everything had already been settled. Fate brings us together. Fate brings us together. Fate brings us together. Fate brings us apart. You and I are together because of fate, and we are also separated because of fate. In the boundless world, an ancient voice rang out. He finally stepped into the river of time, and disappeared amidst the surging waves of time. Yi Xian, I, Yi Qingmei, swear to the primal chaos that if I attain the Tao in the future, when we meet again, I'll definitely marry you. The young girl cried heart-wrenchingly, and on this day, she made a promise that would last for the rest of her life. In the days to come, the once happy smile disappeared from the young girl's face. She began to cultivate madly, and she swept away all her enemies in the world. Step by step, she strode towards the strongest of all time. She had reached the apex of her emotions, and had forgotten all about them. On the day she attained the Tao, All living beings paid homage to her, and all major sects bowed their heads. She had finally created the power of the apex of her emotions, becoming the strongest of all time in the 8th period. The apex of her emotions was him, while the apex of her emotions was the primordial chaos itself. The apex of her emotions had been born because of him, and so he was the young girl's lifelong faith and dedication. The strongest of all time wanted to transcend the cycle of reincarnation and break free of her own death tribulation. However, all the young girl wanted was for him to return. She didn't want to transcend, she wanted to wait for him to return. Moreover, this wait lasted for an entire 3 periods of time. The starry sky painting slowly closed, and the vision before him vanished. However, Yi Xian was completely stupefied. This was because the him in the painting was himself. In that moment, Yi Xian's nervous emotions actually calmed down. He lowered his head, and it was impossible to tell what he was thinking. He finally understood why the Apex Love Lord had such deep feelings for him, and why she would rather leave the battlefield and disregard the fate of the entire Chaos Verse in order to pursue him. Yi Xian also understood why the Apex Love Lord had wanted to marry him. So all of this had begun when the Apex Love Lord was still young. What was love in the world? It was something that made people pledge their lives to each other. In Yi Xian's mind, love was nothing more than a mirage. In his eyes, it was nothing more than a joke. However, when he finished looking at the painting, he realized with resignation that this was his own sin, and that he would have to pay for it in this life. The apex of her emotions, and the apex of her emotions. The Apex Love Lord had been able to create the power of the apex of her emotions. So the most fundamental reason was because of him. Chapter 1324. Yi Xian wanted to say something, but he didn't. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know how to face the extreme love master. I know that you are him. However, you are still very weak right now. I know that you are wary of my identity, but no matter what, I will still marry you as your wife. I will also continue to accompany you as you grow until you truly surpass me, and even surpass these strongest experts of all time. The Lord of Extreme Emotions spoke in a gentle voice as he looked at Yi Xian with eyes filled with affection. At this moment, Yi Xian frowned. He lowered his eyes and didn't say anything. After a long time, he looked at the Extreme Love Master and said, I am sorry. I already have a wife, so I cannot marry you. At that moment, Yi Xian thought of the Empyrean Fairy's voice and face. He'd never forgotten how the Empyrean Fairy had died for him. That day, Panga's true body had crushed the body of the 9 heavens profound maiden with a single step, causing her soul to scatter and die. This was a memory that Yi Xian would never forget. Yi Xian admitted that he didn't feel much for the Empyrean Fairy, but they were husband and wife in name. Empyrean Fairy had died for him. No matter what, Yi Xian had to bring her back to life. That had always been his goal. Of course, it wasn't just the Empyrean Fairy. There was also the Moon Fairy, whom he'd killed. Those 2 women had been a pain in his heart. He'd never forgotten about that. When Yi Xian rejected her again, the Extreme Love Master's face changed. She was a strong being, so she had her pride. Now she was angry. Boom! It pierced through the universe. The galaxy collapsed. Before the Extreme Love Master could say anything, a power that could destroy the universe spread toward the 2 of them. It was accompanied by a roar that shook the sky. You will all die. The Aeon Shadow was absolutely dominating, and the withering deathlight swept across the Chaos Verse. Every single beam of deathlight sent the 9 autarchs and the 9 Star Masters tumbling backwards. Extreme emotion. The undying Heaven Lord roared furiously. He wanted nothing more than to slash at the Extreme Love Master. If she hadn't left at the last moment, they wouldn't have fallen into such a disadvantageous position. Throughout the ages, who is invincible? Aeon Shadow was already in a berserk state. He roared madly as the forbidden arts in his hands grew more and more terrifying. If this continued, the 9 paragons and the 9 celestial masters would definitely be suppressed. Mercy, hurry up and help. Do you really want to watch as this monster destroys the Chaos Verse? The Lord of Destiny barked coldly. At this point, the Extreme Love Master knew her priorities. She took a deep look at Yi Xian, then exploded with the power of extreme love, and joined the battle once more. Rumble! The battle started again, but this time, Extreme Love King joined the fray. He slowed down Ancient Shadow's attacks, and the two sides engaged in a fierce battle. Bang bang bang! The stars in the sky were collapsing, and the vast sea of stars was evaporating. The endless sky was collapsing inch by inch. Terrifying black holes filled the air, swallowing everything around them. It had to be said that Ancient Shadow was too terrifying. Even when the 10 Paragons and the 9-star Masters joined forces, they could only fight to a draw. Neither side could do anything to the other. Eternal reincarnation. Primordial destruction. You so-called supreme experts are nothing but a joke. You have no idea how terrifying the Chaos Verse is. You think you can open the gate of reincarnation? Today, I'll have all of you die here. Ancient Shadow's eyes were scarlet red. The withering light grew stronger and stronger, and his aura rose again. The 10 Paragons and the 9-star Masters felt a great deal of pressure. What kind of monster is he? In the face of Ancient Shadow's terrifying attacks, the 10 Paragons felt their hearts tremble. They thought that Ancient Shadow had unleashed his full power, but now it seemed that he was still holding back. Every time they took a hit from Ancient Shadow, their Paragons showed signs of collapsing. Boom! All of a sudden, the Ancient Shadow clasped his hands together, and then separated them with a loud bang, forming a deathly light that covered the sky. This terrifying light covered this part of the starry universe, and the aura that could destroy everything crazily suppressed the 10 strongest and the 9 great celestial masters. Bang! Wah! This attack was like heaven and earth, like the eternal blue sky. In the face of Ancient Shadow's overbearing attack, the 10 Paragons and the 9-star Masters spat out mouthfuls of blood. They were all sent flying by Ancient Shadow. Strong. Very strong. So strong that it could be said that he was invincible in the Chaos Verse. The power that Ancient Shadow displayed now completely suppressed the 10 Paragons and the 9-star Masters. He really could be called the strongest in the Chaos Verse. Dong! 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 Ancient Shadow strolled forward, and with every step he took, the entire Chaos Verse seemed to tremble. The power of absolute annihilation bloomed, and his ominous eyes flashed with scarlet murderous intent. It was as if he would kill the 10 Paragons and the 9-star Masters in the next moment. No one knew why Ancient Shadow wanted to kill so much. It was as if the 10 Paragons and the 9-star Masters were his mortal enemies, and only by killing them would he be able to quench the hatred in his heart. However, if one looked closely, they would discover that Ancient Shadow always carried a hint of sorrow, giving off an extremely oppressive feeling. What joy is there in being me? Why should I die? Ancient Shadow murmured. He suddenly looked at the 10 Paragons and the 9-star Masters. The end of the Chaos Verse is death. You're just dying a little earlier. Only then will I have the chance to open the gate of reincarnation and truly understand the ultimate secrets of the Chaos Verse. Rumble! The Chaos Verse was boundless, and the universe was in reverse. Ancient Shadow was sublimating to the extreme, and the deathly light on his body burned even brighter. His murderous aura was firmly locked onto the 10 Paragons and the 9-star Masters. At this moment, Yi Xian narrowed his eyes as he observed Ancient Shadow. A strange look flashed through his eyes, and great waves of shock surged in his heart. What was invincibility? What was invincibility? What was dominating the Chaos Verse? At this moment, Ancient Shadow's performance was incisive and vivid. Even if the 10 Paragons and 9-star Masters joined forces, they were still suppressed by him. Perhaps only by gathering the 12 Paragons would they be able to compete with him. Yi Xian's view of the world changed. He'd originally thought that the Paragons were already at the peak of the Chaos Verse, but now it seemed that there were realms above them that he didn't know of. Ancient Shadow had fully explained everything. We Paragons are undying and indestructible, the Lord of Primal Chaos said in a dignified voice, and the light of the Chaos Verse spread out, hoping to join forces with the other paragons to fight Ancient Shadow once more. Unfortunately, they'd all suffered a blow from Ancient Shadow that surpassed paragons, and were all seriously injured. Even if they could still fight, they weren't Ancient Shadow's match. "I'll send you all on your way." Rumble. Deathly light spread out from the enormous hand of the heavens, and the deathly aura of the Chaos Verse surged. Ancient Shadow's 5 fingers rose up, as if he were lifting up the entire Chaos Verse. The faces of the 10 most powerful, and the 9 great celestial masters were extremely grave. Each of them activated their own cultivation base, preparing to block the peerless attack of the Ancient Shadow. Chapter 1325. Clang, clang, clang. Suddenly something strange happened. Like the first sounds of chaos, like the ringing of a great bell, the heavy sound of a bell rang out from the multiverse. It shook one's heart and soul, as if it had existed since time immemorial. Anyone who heard it felt as if their soul would freeze. Rumble. A moment later, something terrifying happened. Chains appeared above Aeon Shadow, and an aura of the rules of order spread out. These chains of order seemed to have a mind of their own, and they instantly wrapped around Aeon Shadow. Chains of order? Aeon Shadow roared, his entire body erupting with deathly light as he tried to shatter the chains around him. Unfortunately, these chains of order completely ignored the withering death ray and instantly wrapped around the Ancient Shadow's body. The dazzling, blazing light quickly melted away the death aura on his body. Bound by the mysterious chains of order, the Ancient Shadow seemed to suffer an unimaginable calamity. He roared like a ferocious beast, but he was unable to break free from the chains. The death light around him was being annihilated inch by inch. It was as if it would kill him at any moment in this starry sky. Chaos Sanction. This is Chaos Sanction. When this scene appeared before the eyes of the 10 most powerful beings, the Master of Fate spoke in a deep voice. The heavy expression on his face dissipated. What was Chaos Sanction? The laws of the Chaos Verse were eternal, and there would always be things that the Chaos Verse could not tolerate. These things were known as taboos, and when a taboo triggered the Chaos Verse would send down Chaos Sanctions to suppress and destroy the taboo. At this moment, Aeon Shadow had erupted with a cultivation that surpassed that of an immemorial paragon, and he wanted to kill the 10 paragons and 9 astral masters. This had triggered Chaos Sanction, causing him to suffer a great calamity. I am eternal. I am unparalleled throughout the ages. Even Chaos Sanction can't kill me. Aeon Shadow roared madly, but the chains of order were slowly melting away the deathly light around him. His true body was slowly being revealed, clearly unable to withstand the Chaos Sanction. His body. Suddenly, the deathly light around Aeon Shadow's body rapidly melted away, and his true body gradually appeared before Yi Xian's eyes. But what did Yi Xian see? His flesh rotted and blood flowed out. Terrifying bloody holes appeared on Eternal Shadow's body, revealing his internal organs and pitch-black bones. At this moment, Aeon Shadow's physical body manifested under the punishment of chaos. Only his head was still covered by the light of death, so no one could see his face clearly. However, just the sight of his rotten body was enough to greatly affect Yi Xian's heart. A hint of horror flashed across Yi Xian's eyes. Such a terrifying person, a person who was known as a taboo character, who could injure him to such an extent. Is Eternal Shadow at its peak? Is he still seriously injured? All sorts of horrifying thoughts flashed through Yi Xian's mind, causing him to look at the Eternal Shadow with even more trepidation. Not only Yi Xian, but the 10 great elites and the 9 great star masters were also dumbstruck and speechless. The opponent's physical body was so tattered, but he actually had the strength to sweep through them. This was simply shocking to the extreme. As long as the cycle of reincarnation doesn't open, I won't die. Break for me. Suddenly, Eternal Shadow let out the roar of an enraged beast. His arms stretched out with all his might, and the light of death around him erupted once more. The chains of order wrapped around him began to shatter inch by inch, Bang! The primordial chaos exploded, and all things were destroyed. The ancient shadow used some unknown technique to forcibly shatter the chains of order around him. However, in the next moment, his aura suddenly became extremely weak, as if this attack had used up all his strength. Come with me. Boom! All of a sudden, just as everyone was in an inexplicable state of shock, Eternal Shadow took a step forward and instantly appeared beside Yi Xian. The two of them instantly disappeared from this part of the starry universe, making it impossible for anyone to find a trace of him and Yi Xian. Silence, silence and eerie silence. When Eternal Shadow fled with Yi Xian, whether it was the 10 great elites or the 9 great star masters, everyone was stunned for a few breaths of time. There was no way for them to recover from their shock. We can't let him escape. Suddenly, the undying Heaven Lord roared, and it was also his roar that instantly awakened everyone from their stupor. Evidently, the Aeon Shadow had used all his strength to shatter the chains of order, but he had also suffered unimaginable injuries. Now was the best time to kill him. Moreover, Yi Xian had been kidnapped by Eternal Shadow. Whether it was to snatch Yi Xian back, or to take advantage of Eternal Shadow's weakened state, they had to find Eternal Shadow and Yi Xian. Unfortunately, Eternal Shadow's methods were too terrifying. No one knew what kind of technique he used, but the 10 great elites and the 9 great star masters couldn't find traces of the two at all. Eternal Shadow and Yi Xian seemed to have disappeared into thin air. Even if they used their strongest consciousness to search the entire chaotic world, they couldn't find any trace of the two. This person walked out of the river of time. His origin is simply terrifying. If we don't kill him or reseal him in the river of time, I'm afraid the structure of the chaotic universe will change because of him. The undying Heaven Lord said gloomily. We must find him. The heavenly devouring Heaven Lord said coldly. A trace of gloominess flashed in his eyes. He had to get Yi Xian. The Calamity Transcender technique on Yi Xian was the opportunity for him to break through the heaven-devouring demonic art. No matter where he takes you, I will find you, the Extreme Love Master murmured, a trace of worry flashing in his eyes. On the other side, in the boundless starry sky of the chaotic universe, 2 figures flashed through the starry sky. Every time they appeared, they crossed an entire star field. Even the insect race and chaos beasts in the chaotic starry sky couldn't stop them. Where are you taking me? Yi Xian was helpless at this moment. He was completely controlled by Eternal Shadow and couldn't resist at all. However, Yi Xian was very calm. He knew that Eternal Shadow wouldn't kill him. If he wanted to kill him, he would have already done so in the river of time. Unfortunately, Eternal Shadow didn't answer Yi Xian's question. He just took Yi Xian across the starry sky. However, the death light around him became fainter and fainter, and his decaying body was clearly presented in front of Yi Xian's eyes. 3 days later, a familiar star field appeared in front of Yi Xian's eyes. However, when Yi Xian saw the familiar star field in front of him, he was stunned on the spot and didn't recover for a long time. The chaotic world? Finally, when Yi Xian entered this familiar star field, a trembling voice came from his mouth. This was because the star field he was in at this moment was the chaotic world he had left back then. Yi Xian didn't expect that he would be brought here by Eternal Shadow. This simply shocked him to the extreme. Chi! Eternal Shadow didn't say anything. He turned into a wisp of smoke and entered the chaotic world with Yi Xian. The two of them disappeared in the vast starry sky. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.